You ready?
Yeah, Nicole's turning on the recording.
Good to go.
We're good to go. All right, so study session today, starting with presentation on utility billing and assistance with Michael Osborne and Amy Francis.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I know that this is a topic that's come up a couple times throughout the year, and Amy and I are so excited to talk about this. As we were doing the PowerPoint presentation, there was so much stuff that we wanted to throw into it. And as we're writing the staff report, we wanted to throw into, but we're just trying to limit our presentation to 20 minutes and then open it up to 20 minutes for all questions. I wanted to start by saying that a year ago, this position was unfilled. And I had an idea of what I wanted this position to be and kind of how it can grow and work through the city. And also it's a base of the city, and like there's a lot of conversations that we're having with residents and utility billing. And we are extremely lucky to have found somebody as great as Amy, somebody that's patient, has hard conversations with people and does it with grace. And I am ecstatic that she's here. So I'm glad that she's here and you guys get a chance to talk to her and see how great of a person she is. Our session outline, kind of what we're putting together here. We just kind of want to tell a little bit about what utility billing does, what administrative tools we have, what the monthly shutoff process is, what our utility assistance program is and how that works, what other external outside resources we have, what other cities are in our region are doing that are our size and how we compare to that. And then kind of a little bit of how different things that we do, how those impact the utility rates going forward. First off is I kind of put this together, Amy and I, on what her duties are. And there's different stages in the month. There's the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, the end of the month. And at the beginning, you can kind of read through it. She was doing past due notices and calls. Some of this I'll get into a little later, but we contract with an outside firm, meter readers, that goes out and physically reads our meters. We don't have an automated system. So we're doing that. We're in touch with commercial businesses we have things called deduct meters. And some of our commercial customers, we have to contact them to give us the rates for those. We run aging reports. I shouldn't say we, Amy. And we also contact customers who are on the past due notice. So that's kind of the beginning of the month stuff, which flows into our mid-month. We do an abnormal consumption reports. If somebody is way above, like if they're at 0 or at over 10 CCF per month, we kind of do an analysis of, hey, is this normal? Is this a correct read? Is there a leak? Something like that. We prepare for the shutoff process, which we'll get into. We submit all accounts for leak checks and adjustments for our approval process. And then we also send people past due to collections.
Mike, just before you go on, I think one thing on that abnormal consumption report, that connected to the meter readers, is because this is all an annual process, there's human error. So yes, it could point to a leak, it could point to a misread, and there's a staff capacity challenge then of our public works staff going out to verify those potential misreads. So
I'm just going to briefly highlight some of these, but we go through and when we get the meter read file back, we do an audit of that, make sure everything looks good. It's kind of to Emma's point. When meter readers reads it, if it's a misread or a leak, then public works steps in, and then our staff goes out and has to take time out of their day to go and reread the meter or to look and see if there's a leak. So that's more burden and administration on the city and public works.
Do you have
And
a
then-
sense of how many a month that averages?
I would probably say 15 to 20, as far as misreads and rereads. Leak checks, I would probably say, estimate maybe 10. Dead meter checks, which, sorry for the terminology, but it's when the meters don't want the reading. I would say, maybe there's 15, 20 of those, so when you add them all up together,
So
it's quite a
it's like
few of
50 or more.
extra, service orders for the public works group.
And this is for another conversation, but something that Peter and I talk about is AMI meters and exploring that. A lot of other cities in the region are going to that. It's an initial cost, capital investment. I was figuring between like $2 million around there. But the cost of meter readers is going up. It's over 100,000 a year now that we're paying for that. So at some point, there's a tipping point where we want to go automated. And a huge benefit to that is meter readers is going out and reading once every 30 days. If we could do AMI, we could do that once every hour, once every 15 minutes. If somebody has a leak, we're finding it faster than our current process.
And what is the capital cost more or less for switching to a system?
It's going out the time and labor to go out to all the meters and switch the meters out, cost of meters.
You think it's like 2 million for the system, but then
It depends on what you want your system to look like and how it communicates, so,
Was that the low end to them?
what's that?
Low end to them?
It potentially could be, I mean, some of the work that you could do is, since you're not necessarily replacing all the meters, but you put an additional component on the meter. That uses the existing meter, but then you don't get any changing. In the last few years, we went to meter infrastructure, we had in-house meter readers that were even electric, water, and natural gas, and we went to and sort of a fiber mesh communication network, and it provided a lot of benefit, both to the city and to the customer in terms of information. But there's a big cost associated with it.
and
it's
if you
not-
put on our capital improvement plan, correct?
Yeah, it's not something that we have in our currency.
But it's a connection to the next half of the study session potentially.
What is when you talk about that type of system improvement, how quickly would it pay itself off? Or you talked about some of the benefits, but what does that look like?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I haven't done a cost benefit analysis of it yet, but it's $2 million. We're paying meter readers 100,000 per year. I mean, that would be, I guess, 20 years. But there's other factors that come in, like leaks and things like that, the faster access to data would just be significant for us. We wouldn't have to do rereads and send people out every time to do that. Sure.
So I'm curious how often you actually find a leak, and I will admit that one of the public works people came to my house several years ago and said, oh, we need to check for a leak to your water. And I'm like, oh yeah, I let my sprinkler on for 2 days.
Yeah.
There was no leak.
We have a lot of leaks, we have a lot of
Do
leaks in
we?
service lines. Yeah,
Okay.
we have a system that, homes were we're a developed community. There's a lot of older homes, there's a lot of older service lines that exist in the city. And, it's, the city maintains the service from the main to the discharge point of the meter. It's the property owner's responsibility. So sometimes there's a leak on our side, sometimes there's a leak on the customer side. And, we have 4 pressure zones. So the more pressure, the more, if you have a lot of water volume in your house, the more pressure that the system has can cause more leaks as well. And this is the last community that I was in, we had more pressures on those already when we bought one elevated storage tank. So, we were looking at pressure, that ranged, like 45 to 50 pounds per square inch. We have places in the community where, people have pressure that are, 90 down pounds per square inch. So that type of pressure can have impacts on service lines and cause more leaks, over time, where those.
So out of the 50 or however many you refer out in a month, you're gonna find leaks or something every month?
Government leak adjustment requests every single.
Yeah.
Yeah, not 50, I would probably say less than 10, but those are the ones that were substantial enough for either us to trigger a service order to send our crew out and go look, or something within, the homeowner might find a soft spot in their grass and they start to do their own research. So there's different ways. And then of course there are intermittent leaks like red toilets and dripping faucets, and those are harder to catch by the crew, because if someone wiggles the toilet, stops the leak till the next time the toilet starts running again. So
In addition to being a leak detective, there's something very important that still he does. But a big thing is that she also works on the front desk on Thursdays. She's also our business registration lead. And she takes on a lot of tasks. I hate to admit it, but she's here past me some nights at the 7 o'clock, so I appreciate her dedication. Next slide is, we want to talk about like our tools that we use to administer utility billing. Our big thing is we use Tyler Technologies Encode for software. We began this in 2003. We used this to service all 7,000 accounts. It's pretty standard, I think, for cities our size. It's a good software, but it's not. It's hard to pull a lot of data out of it. There's a number of different factors on this. One is the AMI, we don't have it up to that. Two is a lot of the meters and everything are set up in an older system. So for commercial wise and stuff, we might have one meter servicing 3 to 4 different commercial places. So it's good for administrative and billing, but it's not robust. We use it to email statements. We just transitioned to that recently. We're sending out about 3,000 email statements currently. We want to get that number up so that people go paperless. This is also tied to the municipal online website, so people can make payments online, which helps reduce administrative burden that way. And we also use it to create service orders for public works so that they can go out and do our sending checks. We also work with Ben Mailing. They handle our printed and physical mailing statements. Currently, we're estimating those at 4,000. We're trying to reduce that number. It just helps us be, nice to go paperless, and it helps reduce costs. As we talk about meter readers, they're a partner of ours too, that they physically go out and get all the reader reads. And then our public works department goes out, as we talked about, does the rereads, leak checks. They also do door hanger delivery and perform the shutoffs. And they install all of the city meters in the city.
You said the 4,000 for the service that thing.
And I just wanna know, put a fine point on what Michael said. I think Tyler is great, and I do think it is the standard for a city of our size. Sure, there are snazzier systems with bigger bells and whistles, but for what we can kind of afford and do, I think it's good. But I've learned, as we went through, for example, the public safety fee, I kind of was like, oh, shouldn't it just be easy? We pull up all these ones that are in this category for safe and we'll just auto apply there's no auto apply. It's still clunky enough that there is a lot of manual processing. Now, once it's all set up and coded correctly, yeah, it can do the job, but I think that was an eye opener for me that it's not as slick as a Google or a something where you're just like boop 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 and it's all gonna happen. It's pretty clunky, mid-tier government software. And I think that's just a good thing to keep in mind when sometimes it might seem like something's very simple, there's still a pretty large administrative.
I put it as out of the box, how Tyler wants you to use it, it's great, it's fine. Start making customizations and changes and everything, then you have to reach out to their support, and then you're getting into making changes to it where it gets kind of cumbersome.
Not impossible at all, just
Yeah.
not as quick as run a report, add a code, and you're done.
Is there anything that's a little bit less clunky, but not the same price point?
I think right now it's integrated with our whole accounting ERP system. And I think for now, it's the best that there is, and we always kind of look, Tyler is the standard. And nobody has kind of come into this space kind of yet, that might change, but I don't see any. It is what it is.
I feel like, didn't we have an RFP or something, did we
Yeah.
have
It
to,
was like 2 years ago.
yeah, 2 or 3 years ago? We gave an opportunity to others to get in the door and nobody did or something?
We can check on that, that
Okay.
doesn't ring a bell to me, but that
Okay.
could be for me.
If I can, I think the other thing too with that doesn't offer is like a portal for customers to look at like customer information, and that's like one of the things that we also do with an AMI. Most AMI systems come with a customer portal, so you can look up your account and see your usage, your consumption.
That's cool.
Michael, what do you think is the hurdle here to get more people to sign up for email?
So. I think it's just comfort because they know like, hey, I'm used to getting this bill. In our push, we put something in the pilot, I believe in June, about, hey, we're moving away from. I think it was, I forget what portal it was before, but we're moving to Tyler to do it all email. I know that Amy always, if they are on a statement, letting them know, hey, put your email into this and it will come. I think it's just kind of building the trust with people that, hey, this is gonna come on a monthly basis into your inbox. And that it's not gonna go into your spam folder, and it's not gonna miss people like paper.
Yeah, I don't think that, I think without, auto pay, email maybe not get you that much because it's like, it's just a forcing function. They got this piece of paper in front of them, and they probably got some place where they stack the bills. They go do that once a month. And so, we all get way too many emails, and I'm certainly guilty of forgetting emails and that kind of thing. So, if they're not set up on some sort of auto pay, people are probably going to be hesitant to do it.
Something to add to this is, if we were gonna get into the shut-offs, people's pay tendency is various throughout the city. And some people like to pay their bills. Or they wanna pay it when they get the past due notice. I don't operate this way, but when Amy reaches out to them, they're like, oh yeah, I know, I'm just waiting for my past due notice to pay that on a quarterly basis. So when we go into shut-offs here. Everybody has different quirks on how they like to do things and what triggers you to pay, and I think that's.
Well, okay, but that's game in the system. I mean,
There's charges
We do
to
charge
that.
fee.
how much they charge?
It's $8 for the past due notice, 15 for the door hanger.
Okay, so there's pay involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of the discussion points when they bring that up, I'm like, look how much you could save.
We also, and we talked about this a little bit in our financial stability work too, getting everyone off of a credit card payment is good for the city and good for them. although they split the points, but, so I think a drive to do more ACH signups is definitely something we've all talked about. And maybe even some incentivizing to get those ACH signups.
I did it when I moved here 10 years ago, and I quite frankly don't think I looked at a bill
Yeah.
in the last decade.
And also it takes away, you know, when we get their new credit cards, trying to remember to go and update them and
Yeah.
putting in the new expiration date, it totally removes the stress of that. One of the polls that I have, or I've been talking with the residents is the paperless billing's great, you don't have to worry about your mail being returned, so when I receive return mail, I do an outreach call to each of our customers. And I give them the option, you know, would you like to be paperless, so I can update your mailing address, but those are all incentives to go paperless. Or auto pay.
Okay, monthly shut-offs, kind of our process that we go through here is first somebody will receive a past due notice. Those are issued at the beginning of the month, that usually go out a letter. They also receive a phone call that can be both automated. And if somebody is aging and it's going out a couple of years shut off, Amy at the beginning of the month will identify it and try and reach out via email or call to let them know, hey, you're getting to the shut off point, can we work on a plan? There's about 260 customers a month that average this in the past due notice. I would just kind of go back and be like, again, this isn't all people that can't pay the bill, it's just some people that they like to do that, it's a smaller amount. But I feel it's relevant to include that in that number. Next would be door hanger notices, and these are issued on the third Tuesday of the month, 2 days prior to shut off. This is specific in the code in a couple of weeks, so I'm gonna come back and we're gonna talk about updating the code language to kind of give us a little flexibility on that. But this is Public Works gets a physical door hanger that we put on that and say you have 48 hours to call and make full payment. Or there will be shut off. This is average 75 residents per month that get in the door hanger status. Finally, on the third Thursday of every month, we go to shutoffs. For us, shutoffs occur after 75 days past due. So you've gone past 2 months of non-payment and then another 15 days into the next billing cycle. We'll get into kind of where that ranks with other cities, kind of our size, but I just wanted to point that, well, I got it on here next. Other cities in the region do 45 to 60 days. What our thing is, we want to intend for customers to have a payment plan and to have communicate at least with us. We just, no communication and no payment is what we're trying to avoid. And we average about 12 shutoffs per month, which to me is exceptional that we're going from 260 to 12. And all of that is due to Amy and the communication that she's with the customers who are facing shut off.
And this was in the staff report, but we also, when we make discretionary calls, we don't do shutoffs in December. Around the holidays, and we didn't do shutoffs in August when we were in the middle of a heat wave. So that week would have been those 100+ degree temperatures. We can make those discretionary calls not to do shutoffs.
So how do we assist customers in past due notice? One, Amy and I, as we were writing this, our goal is we want to set customers up for success. Like we want to be a partner with them and work with them. Amy fields a ton of calls on people that, for a variety of issues, can't make payment, struggling with payment, or something like that. And her background is she came from Providence Hospital, and she is gifted at having hard conversations with people and to frame it in a way to, with empathy, compassion, understanding. That, hey, you know, things come up, let's work you through this, let's work on a plan, let's communicate. So that's big kudos to her for that first step. Ways that we try and reduce past due notices, again, we mail, phone calls, we set up payment arrangements and we use a 3-month payment repayment plan. So if your bill is $1,000, we're trying to get you at $33 per month. We kind of get you back whole in the 3-month gap and then move forward from there. If you're unable to make a payment, we'll direct you to external resources and partners that we have. I'm gonna get to that next. And then also we educate them on the utility assistance program. So first up, we want to talk about the utility assistance program. These are offered to single family residential customers for this time. Don't offer it to multifamily apartments and commercials. The exception of that is the hillside development, which is run by the housing authority. The other one is the 64 apartments that are done through North Main complex, and those are on subsidized housing. So those have been set up in the past that the whole complex, because of how they're set up, is done on low income.
And that doesn't apply to Northwest Housing?
No.
We don't apply that to them?
No,
Why are they different?
I don't know specifically why.
Either
Okay,
subsidized how we should look into that.
What
yeah,
would it,
that's 28 units plus their shelter,
Mhm.
but
And
shelter
that's
probably isn't.
one of many areas that we would love to perform audits on. But again, that's all needing more time to be able to do that, but yeah.
It comes down to when these were set up, and at that time, maybe we didn't ask that question or that question was approached, so. Amy's currently going through and doing an audit of the whole city, trying to make sure that everything is set up correctly going forward. Yeah. Next is this was all in the staff report, but just a reminder for our income thresholds, we use, I believe, the HUD model, and those are outlined here. When we go through the application process, we ask for an application, a federal tax return, and we're asking for all occupants receiving income in the residence. So if there's 4 people living in the residence and there's 3 people who are receiving income, you look at the income of all 3 folks who are receiving income. The waivers that we give for the low income assistance program are kind of outlined under program waivers. We waive the base water charge for water. We charge 50% of the wastewater, 50% of the stormwater fee, and we're waiving 100% of the SSMP and safe fees. And we're also waiving the $7 upcoming public safety that was recently.
Council President, did you have a question?
yeah, I guess 2 things that I'm thinking about here. What would it look like to adopt a policy more broadly as we have more income restricted units coming to the market? To be able to capture this, I think about
Yeah.
we've got short stack Milwaukie, workforce housing alternatively, things that aren't captured. Is there some broad policy we could set as opposed to identifying things individually?
I think, it's definitely something we can look into. I mean, I think the reason Hillside and North Main, those 64 is they're income restricted, and there's deed restrictions or covenants around that. So that anything that ties it to that, which is why I'm surprised on Walsh comments too, why that one came there. I think that's definitely doable, and that becomes maybe part of the water meter hookup process. When there's a box to check, is this income restricted housing? Check. The challenge with multifamily, we've talked about this a lot in some previous budget conversations, in multifamily where it's not necessarily income restricted, is some of those, all the utilities are being paid by the landlord. Some of the units have individual meters, some don't. So it's very hard to write kind of a uniform policy, but I think I think the income restriction of the actual unit is, or of the development is the way to go to do something like you're talking about.
Well, and the middle housing, and this is talking about multifamily, middle housing is gonna be treated like single family for purposes of this, right?
It should be, but I guess, are there any middle housing developments, like a cottage cluster where you would have, if they're not individually divided, where you would have a single meter?
Most of them will have single, unless they are looking to individually divide and sell something, then they will have some sort of meter manifold that would. But we're generally, we're a single meter, somewhere.
And would that be categorized as a multifamily or a residential customer?
Oh, multi-family.
So short stack Milwaukie would be a multifamily customer.
Well, I think it's short, I can't, short stack I know is the land trust model, so I'm not sure if they've done land division and if they have separate meters or if they have single.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the individual development. Still, what their intent is, if they're looking to sell off units to individuals.
Is that, as I think about this more, we've got short stack, we've got Sparrow site, gonna be talking about land banking, which implies there will be other developments similar to this. And so I do think, as we talk about our utility code, or I don't know if it has to be a formal policy to be adopted, this some general directive to staff to try and find these exceptions and add them on the program. But I do think a systematic way that we address these things would be helpful.
I think that's great, and I think we can look at I think it's the meter hookup process, that for triggering it with that. Since I just had to do one, my own development, I'm very familiar with this.
Alright.
Can I ask
Yeah,
one
go
more
ahead.
question about this? I timely met with a person today who was complaining a little bit about our utility assistance program. She lives with 8 people in her household, most of which are low income, I think all of which are low income. And was wondering why we don't extend out our benefits past just a 4-person household. What would that look like necessarily? Does the
So we
government
do.
have guidance?
Yeah.
We do, just on the website, it shows 4, and
Okay,
then it has a hyperlink that you can view more, and it directs them directly to
okay,
HUD, and then it lists down, have coffee here, actually.
Yeah.
I think it goes all the way to like 8 or 10, and
okay,
then probably like add so much.
It's like it's up to
person.
13.
Yeah, so it's not restricted to.
I'll have them then follow up with you, because I think that. Maybe it's the way that it was framed on the website, that they specifically said, well, it's such a challenge because we've got 8 people, so we don't qualify for your utility program. So let's look into that, so that's helpful, I'll have them follow up.
How does that work? But I mean, you look at the account, right? So the account has to show that they're in a low income status, and then they request those 8 people are dependents of that.
So on the application, it requests everybody within the household, and then it asks, are you working, do you receive income, or no income? So anyone within the household that receives income, we would request proof of income because it goes off the household annual gross income.
So you look at the federal tax returns for everyone filing.
Correct.
Good question.
Alright, so kind of, I divided this into 2 parts for sources that we provide for financial support. Our external partners, one is St. Vincent de Paul. The city currently budgets $7,000 annually to help with economic relief of that. So if somebody is facing shut off status, we direct them to St. Vincent de Paul. The advantage of that is it removes the city from making the judgment on how to allocate those funds. St. Vincent de Paul is staffed and has the administration to really work with people and find out, what the need is and how they can help. So that's one partner we direct them to. Another new one is Clackamas County Utility Support. This is a one-time assistance for those in emergency need and facing shut off. Kind of on a side note, I read in Oregon Live recently that the state is setting aside funds for utility relief. I don't know if that's gonna trickle down to the county and this fund, but I just realized that at the state level, they recognize that utility assistance is a need. And possibly that they partner with the county to facilitate funds through that. The other option that we have is 211 and United Way. And that's a collaboration, they work with outside multiple different funding sources and kind of act as a umbrella to provide sources for everybody. So they're kind of looking outside with a lot of different partners who have funding, and then they're getting folks in need who need assistance to be able to administer that and disperse it. One awesome thing I just wanted to highlight is one of our employees, Maddie Doka, her mother-in-law works for United Way. And she came in one day and said, hey, my mother-in-law, there's tools and avenues that help, and gave us her information. And we've been able to reach out to her directly. And it's a direct line of communication that when people are in need, we can direct them to her mother-in-law, and she's been able to help that way. So it just streamlines the process and is a huge benefit to us. So all the external partners, that's outside funding sources that are, for the most part, dollars that don't impact the utility itself. We also have an internal resource, and that's called the Utility Assistance Hardship Budget. And we budget $5,000 per year for this, and this is for hardship and leaks and different adjustments like that. And that's usually determined by Emma and Mai's determination. So I'm trying to think back on a couple of times that we've done it, but there's been severe financial hardships where people are in crisis and we've had to make that call. And I mean, I don't take that lightly, and I try and use those funds to the best that we can. We budget the $5,000 for it. That's an expense to the internal utility fund. So we're kind of, it's an expense to all of the ratepayers. So we don't take it lightly, but we use that when needed. People are in severe hardship, or there's leaks that adjustments on.
And just to clarify, these resources, you don't have to be enrolled in our UAP to get access to these. If someone has lost their job, and so they're not enrolled in our utility assistance program, but they're in a acute moment of need. Those are the types of things that when Amy's doing her outreach, she can connect them with these partners. This is sort of the as needed resource.
And so the 5,000 internal and the 7,000 at St. Vincent de Paul. I remember when we set that up in COVID, I think. And you know, we probably put more into it back during that time, but I assume those get used up. How early in the year do they get?
The United Way does a good job of sending us a report showing how they're used. During COVID, they went fast. Now, you know, I think I would say 9 to 12 months, but that's just a pure estimate.
But do you think they're lasting most of the year?
It is for now.
Okay. And you think that, I mean, that was one of the questions I wrote down for myself after reading the packet is like, is the $7,000 to St. Vincent de Paul really meaningful? And is it, you know, serving somebody who isn't otherwise getting served, I guess? And you're saying yes.
It's very meaningful.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sorry for the white slide on this, but I was trying to highlight a little bit more. What we wanted to know is what other cities are doing, how is Milwaukie in comparison? And we looked at other cities our size, population, and number of customers. And Judy did a great job of reaching out to other cities to collect this information. And I kind of put Milwaukie at the top of what we're doing. And you can kind of see what others are doing. And the big thing I would highlight is towards the end, the percentage of customers receiving assistance. We're doing fairly well compared to the region, if not average. We're at 2%. I found it interesting. Other places, Clackamas River Water don't provide any program. They just have residents go through St. Vincent de Paul. But we're kind of on par with what other cities are doing for our size. Also to look at the required documents, we ask for the federal tax returns. Other people ask for bank statements, social security statements, other things. We don't go to that level. Tax return, it's good for us. In our UAP process, we go through annually and verify income. So we used to do this on an annual basis, but over COVID, we got away from that. And this year was the first year that we got back to doing it on an annual basis. And we have everybody just reapply every year to make sure that they're meeting the income requirements. Things change. Sometimes, people were on unemployment and now times are better and they've been able to get off of that. It just helps us keep the integrity of the program and target those residents that are in need, that need the assistance. Another thing I kind of found interesting was like Oswego and Tigard. I discovered they have a partnership that they work together, so they have 105,000 customers, and they don't offer much in assistance. I think part of that is because it's an administrative task to kind of do all this, but we in Milwaukie kind of make that commitment to do this. So I think the 2% is good. I know it's only 127 people and we're trying to target as many as we can, but I think we're on par with everybody else. My last slide, and then I'll shut up, is different things to impact utility rates. And one thing is we have an outside consultant that I'm sure you all know that goes out and does a rate study that works with Peter. And they're looking out 5 to 10 years on the impacts of all of these different factors and how they're going to impact the rates going forward. They're considering our infrastructure needs, our resource needs, and all these different tools. I used to sit on the CUAB at the time. Now it's the CUAC 10, 15 years ago. And I remember on a yearly basis them bringing it to us. And we would talk about different types of rate scenarios. Do we want to go on a tiered scenario? Do we want to go on a flat rate scenario? And kind of looking at like what that would look like. There was always like a lot of different input and things, and I always found it very informative. But I know that there's been talk about how we structure our rates, and I'm just bringing that up as like, we're trying to look at this as a 2 to 10 year process into the future. So that's kind of the avenue that we use for that. Another thing I wanted to point out is the cost of the reduced rates for the utility assistance program are then incorporated into those rates and into that study. And then they're allocated out to the remaining customer base. So there is a cost of subsidizing that, which I feel is totally a benefit, but I just wanted to point that out. And then finally, there's currently we provide a low income use discount rate of $5 discount if you use less than 3 CCF amount of water per month. That's already in our that's a discount in our base fee that we've incorporated into our administrative type of tools that we already have. So as we're talking about utility rates, I'm just very guarded on the administrative lift versus the reduced rates, and how do we do that efficiently and effectively? So kind of with that, I've way too long and thrown a lot at you. So I was just opening this up to any questions you guys have of Amy. And yeah, let us know. But
Question.
Yeah. My question is, like the Hunt's numbers, when we create our programs, are we bound by those numbers? Because when you look at HUD and the family of four using the chart that's on the website, that thing, that's running off the median income of a family of four of 124,000. Meanwhile, in Milwaukie, it's about $40,000 less. So I feel like if we apply those metrics to what our median household income is, we probably get a lot more people in that. When you also look at what the home sales prices have been in the last 12 months, about 519,000, something around there. You look at the people on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you look at, okay, well, what can somebody with an $80,000 income afford in Milwaukie as a homeowner? And it's at a price point that doesn't exist in Milwaukie. This is only for homeowners, right? So we need to be able to, I'm assuming that we need to be able to move those numbers as our socioeconomic status in the city. So that changes, right? Because I don't think we're encompassing the same group of people we once may have thought we were, and that might be why our numbers are low.
And I think that's a good point, counselor. I think that this table, and credit to, I think Judy really helped put this research together. It shows you, I don't, there's no statute that we have to use the HUD guidelines, and you can see here that other cities have made different choices. Like Gresham is using 50% of Oregon's current median income or less.
Yeah, so
But
I should read it.
Yeah, but I think what was interesting to me, because I agree with you that we're low on enrollment. But what I found interesting is I don't think it's a Milwaukie unique challenge when you see these numbers. So I think that's a question, that's a policy question for you all to give us direction on. And that kind of threshold is something we can explore. There will be a cost, the more people you get enrolled in that.
One thing, if I may, that you might find helpful is some of the surrounding cities, they do require the utility account to be in the homeowner's name, and then the homeowner is responsible for basically covering the water, garbage, sewer, and they collect from the resident. One way that Milwaukie is different is that we allow the renter to set up the account in their name. So even though it might be a home that's $500,000, that doesn't mean that the person living there, that they purchased a home. They may be renting a home.
I can vouch to that.
Yeah.
I'm a renter and I signed up.
And then as far as the Oregon State median, I actually pulled that because I was really curious how far off that is. It's almost similar. Actually, the interesting part is that when you look at households of 1 or 2, we're actually higher than the Oregon median that the other cities are using. Now, when you get into a household of 6, they're higher. So, you know, if you're looking at possibly switching that, you just kind of.
And I think that's where maybe the balance comes in, so it's not such a huge jump from who's getting it, right? Like you can lower that on one side, it's individual people, right? But then you can increase it where it's a family of 4, 5, 6 people, because that's probably where you're gonna need that like most is within that threshold. So maybe that's where the balance of that is.
How often do you talk to somebody who's, I mean, when you get the 75 shutoffs, 75 door hangers, and people start calling you, how often are they eligible?
So I would say that's usually the time that I'm also, I mean, we have several ways that we're communicating about the program on the back of the bills, you know, and went online. You know, I encourage everybody that's on that shut off list, but believe it or not, a lot of them don't qualify. And it's not always because our income limits are so restricted. It's just how they're budgeting their money and how they're allocating their finances. So I think I was surprised when I started working here that, when I would talk to customers, that were past due, right? Many were like, no, the utility, because I would first bring up the utility assistance, thinking that's the direction they want to go. But I would say probably, maybe not the majority, there is a portion of residents that aren't looking to apply for utility assistance. So it's important to know that in those numbers, that doesn't encompass all of the lower income brackets.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys made the point that some people just don't wanna pay quarterly or so I get that. But I mean, the 62,000 for a family of four does not seem really high to me. I mean, it seems kind of a reasonable threshold, especially when you look at the other cities. But we know from, the Alice work that the tab did that, we've got, 30 to 40% of Milwaukie in that, Alice threshold. If we suddenly had 30% of Milwaukie qualifying for this, then we would be really raising everyone else's rates. What would I say? So
Well, then people took advantage of it though.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, we offer it now to, and it's been this way for how many years and how many people aren't doing it. And so can't really say that necessarily because you don't really know what the role would be.
No, I'm just saying if suddenly we decided to change a measure that allowed, I don't know what that measure would be, it takes some study, but that allowed, 30% of Milwaukie to be eligible. What would to the point Michael made earlier, what would that do for the economic organization?
I do wonder, so if you look at the HUD numbers, it looks like we used very low 50% numbers. But HUD also provides a low income 80% number, where a family of four would be making 99,000, which the Councilor Christopher Body's point covers families that already are being priced out of the block. And I just would be curious.
Well, and I think there's a question I had for you guys in our last affordability check-in. We kind of clarified the direction was the first step you want us to take is increase awareness and education about the current UAP and see what that does to our enrollment before we look at deepening discounts or expanding access. But if that direction changes, let us know. But I think, right now, what we've kind of heard is first see, are we capturing everyone that qualifies under the current thresholds? If you'd like to give us a different direction out of this, we can hear it.
I mean, what I think of this is three choices that we have. There's one, expanding the pot of people who are already eligible to critics. Two is deepening the discounts for the people who are already eligible. And three is expanding the eligibility.
Yep.
If I were to prioritize them, I think making sure that the people who are already eligible are signed up for this program.
Okay.
And sort of impactful. I would say what I would put as priority two is expanding the eligibility. I think that we have this like crisis of affordability that touches, I do use my hands a lot, that a crisis of affordability that touches a lot of households even at low income thresholds, according to HUD, not just very low and extremely low. So I want to see expanded. And last, I would say deepening those thresholds, but I think here's what we'll say, and maybe it's moved. You can say we'll say.
I hadn't seen these numbers before. So that changes into
Which numbers?
the what numbers that were going up. The fact, like, cause I always thought we were like tied to them, but if we're not,
It's a
we don't,
policy choice.
we don't necessarily need to deepen discounts. We could just use the NHI and ask. Doesn't deepen necessarily, it just changes what the threshold is. Which doesn't deepen the discount, it just might encourage more people to join because you're going off Milwaukee specific NHI, so I don't know if that would be a simpler route to go to try to see as opposed to deepening
I
discounts.
think Milwaukee specific MHI would be interesting. I think there'd be more of an administrative workload because right now we get the thresholds from HUD, we can apply those. We would have to do the research into MHI annually, but not not doable. I think I'm just trying to kind of see what. As part of our affordability goal, kind of what the direction is of what you, I like how you did, Council President, kind of what your priorities are, so that we know we're ticking those, we're advancing, we're getting them.
So I wanna hear from you. What was yours again?
I said, so to your point of like what threshold we use, I think we wanna expand it, that low income threshold by the HUD is a. Low, we're not recreating the wheel there, we have numbers that the HUD provides. I would say my first goal would be making sure that everyone who's eligible.
At current thresholds.
Yeah, at current thresholds, goal. Second priority would be expanding it to the low 80% margin set by the HUD. And third would be keeping the discounts, and I don't know where. I would defer to staff what the cost of each of those steps would be and what is feasible, or the trade-offs of each step. But I think that would be the order in which I would. Right.
Yeah, I think the order that you laid out well makes sense. I would tell you that I don't think that I'd be cautious about proceeding along those three lines in parallel. I think they're sequential. And that we give this, the direction we've already given, give this some time to see what the results are before we go to those next steps. And I agree, I think that once we sort of have got out all of the juice that we can out of that piece of fruit, then we would step back and say, do we want to adjust this to the real economic factors affecting Milwaukie? And that would be, step two. But I think it needs to be sequential because we really don't know the impacts until it's really on the streets, I think. And so I would just be a proponent of a sequential approach rather than a parallel approach.
And I don't know, food for thought, a resident that is on the utility assistance program versus one that is not, it's about a 50%, approximately 50% reduction in their monthly utility bill. So one thing to think about is as we increase those numbers, there's still going to be funding for the infrastructures and just be mindful over that additional funding.
Well, you can also reduce the number of discounts as the income increases. So you start with the lower end, you get all those discounts, and as the income goes up, it gets closer to the threshold. It's some of the discounts start falling off. So you're not eligible for all of them, but you're still eligible for some of them as it increases. So that way you're not having to backfill $76 a month on an increased amount of users. Right?
So like a tiered assistance program.
Yeah, I guess it'd be interesting to hear from you guys what the straight up burden of that would be. I think that could be pretty burdensome, but I mean, I guess if you just did it once a year, if you just did it as part of your once a year check-in, then maybe it wouldn't be so burdensome, but yeah.
Could I follow up on something that Councilor Massey said? I do think sequentially is a better approach than all at once. I think it would be valuable for us to put into our forecaster or our like goal for this affordability goal, a check-in point to say, okay, do we move in the sequence or do we double down or where are we here in the process? And I guess related to that, you put out a notice in the pilot saying, here's our low income program. What sort of adoption do you see after that? Like what is, I guess if we were focusing on this first sequence of expanding enrollment, what works? It has what we've done work past, or what are we trying?
So currently for utility assistance, at this point, probably the area I'm targeting most is the customers that I'm working with that are past due.
Okay.
The conversations that I'm having when someone needs to set up a payment arrangement because they're not able to pay their balance in fall. What happened was it just like an oversight, is that, monthly payment, did you have to miss because you're out of work 1 month? So that has been my target point, to communicate to the customers just on our one-on-one conversations. Because most of the residents that are needing help, I end up talking to them at some point during the month. And like I said, it is on the back of the statements, it is on our website. We have an entire area on our utility assistance or utility billing page for utility assistance. I don't know where else has verbiage been. I don't know if there's been. Pilot.
To Will's point, I think I know what you're saying is like, how do we define success?
Yeah.
Okay, and so, that's gonna require, obviously some insight from Michael and Amy and everything like that. And I think it's gonna be, I don't think it's a formula.
Yeah.
But I think it requires some thought, and we would rely on their insight and that kind of thing. But I think it would be helpful if we did have what defines success. Have we achieved, the first step in expanding the population that's using the existing program? And I don't think it has to be perfect, but it has to be a goal, or maybe not a goal, but at least a point that we're working to.
And do you want to have that discussion now?
No,
Or
I
are you saying we want to send a future date to have that discussion?
We do.
think we're gonna rely on them to help us come up with that.
And we talked about this a bit in our goal action plan, the metrics on this one. I think it's a challenging one to put in. The success is also people moving off of a utility assistance program because but we've heard you that you want to know what the proportion should be. I've explained it's a little challenging because you have to crosswise your tenure, your income, your family size, but we can do it. We can get you a target number that feels accurate and then go from what the 127 to that would be and see how we're chipping away at that proportion of our population. We think we could estimate would fall into this income bracket, these income brackets.
I would say looming over all of this, what makes me kind of uncomfortable is the fact that Amy is connecting with people who can't pay their bills. And we don't have a low income program that like meets them where they're at, or they're not eligible for the program. And I guess that's where I'm trying to think like.
And I hear you.
Yeah.
I do think we can also share around, Mayor, to your earlier question, utilization data on our external resources, because we do share, say if it's a DePaul, United Way, 211, and we have the hardship fund. So those are both all places that we can also, if someone doesn't apply, it doesn't qualify for the EPP, we can assist them.
Something to keep in mind too, after COVID, the Clackamas County received a federal fund, I think it's federal, but a grant to help after COVID, a lot of the accounts past due were high. And the program was to pay out everything in full, and then I think to pay them ahead, like 1 or 2 months ahead. And that really helped city and us bring the past due notices down. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, I can find that information, but that coming out of COVID, it was rough, but that gave the city kind of pretty clean slate. And then also since Amy's been here, she's really worked hard on bringing these numbers down. And to me, there are past due accounts, but it's not it's not a huge concern. I don't know if that's the words I should use, but that program really helped.
And there are residents that would probably qualify, but it does require a certain level of cooperation where we need them to fill out the application, we need them to provide the documentation, and while we can encourage that, sometimes that can be part of the concern as well. Judy had a wonderful idea, moving forward, maybe during our next renewal process, we hold a couple workshops for people that might be challenged using their computers to come in and we can help them. So they're a little proactive because we have them.
I think that's a really great idea, and I think that'd be an awesome way to not only support people in some income assistance, but also ACH signups, just folks who might want some technical assistance and again,
Open house.
Amy and Judy are a delight to deal with.
And utility building open house.
Well, you could do that at the library,
was gonna
right?
say-
The way you do the Tuesday, the way they do the Tuesdays at the library, you could have, or Thursdays or Fridays or whatever, at the library, you do that. So I guess in terms of checking back in certain terms of how long do we let, when do we check back in and when do we have further discussion? So we just discussed. We just had the update on this goal last week, so it'd be. The first meeting in December, or it'd be December when we're due for our
I
next.
think it would be December, yes.
So maybe that's a good time to check in on, and I would say, I mean, you know, you guys can also share the website and things like that. You can also leave up a spread, or I will do some of that, social media.
Run a pilot article too,
Yeah.
so.
Is the information already going out in Jason's updates on Fridays?
I don't know if we've done a UAP specific spoiler, but
I mean, that goes out to all interested parties across all of the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of community leaders that are within that mailing list. That even a simple ask to help amplify the message.
Yeah.
definitely see that. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Mayor, that like, you know, we've got about 3 months then, we'll try some of these outreach strategies. We'll keep the thresholds where they are right now. We can report back both on enrollment in that period and some harder data, kind of like what a target population we would estimate would be there. Share that. Discuss if we're ready to move to a strategy 2 or more.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of that has to be, what are the impacts on everybody else? If adjusting the number to
It'll be
from
both
62,000 to 80,000.
Yeah. It'll be well timed because we'll get some great design data and a conversation on the November budget.
I'm just wondering, sometimes qualitative data is really helpful as well, especially if you were initiative. So of the folks that you are talking to, when you explain to them about the program and the thresholds, are you hearing from a lot of them like, I don't need that threshold? Or like, what does that kind of conversation look like? Is that might be a good tell for us, you know, whether we need to make an adjustment short term?
You know, I do hear that, but I wouldn't say that that's the majority of it. Maybe half are like, I don't need that. A lot of them are, multiple people are living in the household, and not everybody wants to provide their documentation. So it's more so within the home dynamic, who's comfortable sharing their income information. Or, you know, there's different family dynamics where maybe not everyone's pitching in on the bills. So it's not always income based that they're choosing not to.
That's a pride issue too.
Yeah, and that is too, you know, that is something I experienced on my previous job, and I'm sure it's a factor here as well. There are people that are in that income limit, but they can make ends meet and they don't want to be pushed into feeling like they need to be part of the program. They feel good about being independent.
And I want to give a lot of credit to Judy, Amy, and Gabriella, our equity inclusion coordinator, who worked together on a review of the language that we have on the website related to this. This did used to be called our low income utility assistance program, and there was a very intentional decision to remove that moniker again to avoid stigma or concerns and just make it a more inclusive opportunity for folks to feel comfortable calling it.
And the applications are
Different languages.
So we're reaching out that way too.
So is it too much to now and the next, when you guys come back? Well, actually, what are the, so just so I'm clear, what are the current enrollment efforts that we're looking at?
Yeah.
Do we know what those are?
I kind of, so what I've taken notes on and listed off is including information alert in the neighborhood Friday neighborhood update. We can do another kind of notice in the pilot. I believe we have information on this in mail bills, is that correct?
Yeah,
Already?
so it's already on the back of the state mail. And they would turn that over because that's how they know how to pay, where to pay. So it's included in that somewhere.
I do think having one of these, trying one of these outreach events and seeing how it goes, maybe that's what we can add to the pilot. Posted either here or at the library. And then social media And I think we'd also ask for your guys' help in spreading the message through social media as well. So I think that we can try that concerted push for these 3 months. And come back in December with an update on how that's worked out.
So is it too much to, because I do believe, Councilor Massey's point, the sequential order of
Mhm.
these. But can we find out what the administrative workload would be in that time if we were to exceed, like, increase the threshold or expand the threshold? Or is that too much? Just so by December, we can maybe at least even see if that's feasible.
So by administrative load, I think, or do you mean like the cost, the impact on rates for other ratepayers?
No, I'm just talking about like staff time. What would this, like, would we be able to find out in the next, between now and December, what staff time, what the administrative
Sure.
impact will be for expanding that threshold?
Yeah, I, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the staff impact is actually the minimal part. I think the bigger impact is the financial impact. So if you expand the
I know
threshold,
it's gonna take long, I just wanted to, there is a,
Yeah.
it's a heavy.
I think it'd be very, honestly, I think all it's changed. I guess this is the question. If we're doing the low HUD ones that Will was talking about, already calculated, published by the feds. Minimal to no impact on staff, maybe more calls and applications to process. But no, I mean, it's the same steps,
Right.
because it's the same numbers. To the suggestion you had of calculating a Milwaukie average household income. Or state, yeah, we could put some math together on kind of what the steps would have to be there, what the administrative impact.
I would suggest to like May is kind of the time that we're going through and doing these renewals. So between now and May, we can have those discussions on where we want to set that number or whichever.
I just want to make sure it's not too far.
No, I think now is the time to have that conversation for next year.
That's a really good point, Mike, because we also have to update the fee schedule in May, so kind of any change to fee income qualification is also happening in that. But we can definitely start that kind of, at least, napkin math of.
Yeah, I was
Steps
just curious,
look like.
like, just what the add.
I think we might also, we might also be able to, have our rate consultants maybe do the sensitivity analysis on like how at least the water and wastewater rate might be by an expansion of that threshold, so. They can check with them, so that's something they can fit in.
Thank you.
You mentioned a change in the language, do you know when the website will work?
Sorry, for our website, not like that.
Doesn't
You're
it?
right, that was probably a chance.
Might actually just be like graphics or something.
But I think this change was made after the deadline of transferring our
Oh.
content, so we can get that updated.
How Councilor Koster-Body was talking about trying to see numbers of what it would look like and expand eligibility. Is that something that we could have in our November conversation about adopting different programs? Is that realistic? Or is that appropriate time to consider those numbers or?
I think this is the sensitivity analysis piece that Peter's talking about, so we could, I think we could work with our rate consultant to see if we expanded the threshold and we assume that would increase enrollees by this proportion, what would that do to rates? I think we could ask for bringing that in.
I'll see if that's possible.
Adam, are you trying to, I think I know where you're gonna tell me if I'm completely wrong, but you're trying to look for a level or a magnitude about what it's gonna be, the cost to go to the expanded phase.
Right, just to see if it's even a step
Yeah.
you want to take on.
In other words, so that we can kind of look at that and not wait another 3 months.
Yeah.
Right, but also not get ahead of ourselves to
Yeah.
where we're running through here.
Yeah. So it's just helping us make informed decisions even after that.
I couldn't say anything. My Swiss cheese. Made it more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of gross assumptions that I have to do.
Yeah.
Like figure out participation.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, honestly, like when we look at those HUD thresholds and expanding. They're based on percentages, right? Yeah, so we'll see what we can do.
We'll see what we can bring to that November discussion. Further questions, further comments?
Fantastic work.
Yeah, this has been very good. We're proud.
Thank you.
There's a lot.
Thank you for having me.
There's still a lot of work to go, but I feel like with the explanation presentation for the last at least the last 2 weeks, it's made things a lot more.
Mhm.
In my opinion, maybe I'm just.
Yeah. And I have one Amy. I have one amazing Judy too, but I have got one Amy, so don't be shocked also through the budget process if you hear me asking for a little more support for Amy, the more robust we make our utility billing
Yeah.
systems.
You're saying it's bad, she works till 7 p.m.
Good thing I'm an empty nester.
He also lives in Sandy, so when she leaves the cabin and drives
Well, that's why
back.
she stays late.
Oh, man.
I love it so much.
Oh,
Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay. We'll move on to our second item, which is our CIP. Peter Passarelli and Jen Garvin.
Thank you so much.
You got jump.
You got it.
All right, we got a lot of slides to get through. I'm gonna do as best I can. We got a lot to talk about. So,
Wait, serious?
I'm dead serious. I got a full CIP update, plus we've got some prioritization that we wanna go over, and then we got a little bit we wanna talk about, a game. So, it's about 23 slides. However, I would say we got a couple that'll go pretty quick. Okay. First of all, we've got some celebration to do. Meet. Nice. It is complete. Right now, we're working on punch list and closeout. So all bid items, all work is done, and literally we're finalizing it and closing the project. So my first project, when I literally started here 8 years ago. It looks beautiful, it looks great, which is fantastic. Contractor did an awesome job, really worked through that railroad. So, it'll be ready for this next winter, which is fantastic. We're gonna pull the plug at Harrison, so then it'll flow instead through Harrison down Mount Johnson Creek. It'll actually go to Roswell. So. Next, Washington area improvements. Right now, we are basically doing walkthrough also. We have plantings happening in September, and then we're looking at doing a celebration at the park in October, celebrating this project.
How finished are all the like paintings that you're doing on the street?
Most of the it should be done. It should be done as far as all. I'd have to check in with Josh if they have anything last minute, but we should be on the punch list, so all the paintings should be in,
Okay.
all the markings. And
Okay, that sounds good. I only ask for this and kind of the next project too. Since this is on our new TSP as one of our neighborhood bikeways, would you in the future in a project like this add Cheerios? Or,
potentially, yes.
okay,
So yeah, this was in design and construction before our TSP,
Yeah.
right? So there's potential other little things we may
Yeah.
want to do now that that's kind of evolved.
Yep.
Since then, so true.
it's mostly a question for the future, but slightly, I threw it out there to see if it's a thing, but that sounds good.
So yeah, we were hoping to be done by end of October. We're gonna meet that deadline. So super excited about that. Our malls north. They were working on punch lists and finishing it out. So another one, I do a walkthrough next week to see all the improvements and that shared road concept and how that's working. I think the neat part is there's plenty of space for people to park, which is fantastic. And then the roadway is clear. That's for bikes, vehicles, and pedestrians walking. Right now they're finishing up striping and things like that. So that's where we're at.
And will those roads have sharrows?
Yes. Yes, they will. Okay. We did it, we did 8.5 miles of grind and inlay and slurry seal this year. And I'm not gonna say it was definitely a little tough because it all happened at the exact same time, even with our North, we were paving all 3 projects at the same time. But we have got through it, which is fantastic. Here's where I need to prep you, next year we are not putting out a slurry seal or a grind and pave project. And the reason for that is we're creating a 5-year plan. And we're creating that 5-year plan so we know what's happening each year. And so the whole team and all the divisions have the ability to go out and make sure their work is done before that road needs to be paved. So if there's any small water work, stormwater work, wastewater work, that we're getting those things done ahead of time before we come and pave. And so this is the first time we're actually gonna have this nice 5-year program that's set up so we know what's happening. And when residents call in, we can tell them, here's the plan. Here's where your street's gonna be paved. Yes,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
you can go there.
Where, or which projects or kind of. Where are the roads that are in deferred maintenance that we might see worsen during this 1-year reprieve of paving and slurry seal?
We don't actually have a program right now. We've been just kind of putting this together every year. So every road will worsen over the next year.
Well, I
As
guess
far as that goes.
I'm sure, yes, that's true, because they all degrade as we drive over them, but.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm wondering is, what else was on the list as like,
I don't have a list.
there's nothing, okay.
Like, so we are gathering data, we are updating our street saver program right now. We got a consultant helping us put that together to give us better data. So we can create the list
Okay.
that we all need.
Were there any streets though, Jen, that, I mean, just want to say more anecdotally rather than data driven, but just like that you kind of like, I wish we could have got that this year. It's really in bad shape. I know it's in bad shape and we're not gonna get to it for 2 years now.
So we collected, we are collecting data right now to get input from the community. But those haven't been analyzed as far as like what level they're at. That still takes staff time to go out. So we're still gonna take that information and put that into our 5-year program.
I think the other thing too is like the work that we've done over the last, I don't know, 5-6 years with the street maintenance, the overlays of the slurry seals. We've targeted those that are most appropriate for that type of treatment. So there's still some that are out there, but like we hit the bulk of them, so. We don't necessarily wanna put down slurry seal like on every pavement, it has to be in a certain condition. The overlay, the grind or inlay, some pavements have deteriorated to the point where that's not necessarily the appropriate treatment. So there's some additional work. There are places out there, we have other projects coming up that you'll see paving occurring. As part of like Harvey. King Road.
Right, those still will be paid next year, so we will have something that gets paid next year, we're just not gonna put a slurry seal program out
Right.
or grind it in, like, so I can build this program. And be pretty solid about it and make sure it's funded, right, like that's the other piece of it.
Well, I do feel like you've really, the last 2 or 3 years, you've really stepped up how much you've done each year, and I do see the results around town. I guess to the point that Peter made, that there are, and we've heard this before, there are some roads that are too far gone for grind and inlay. Do we have a sense of how many miles of said roads we have?
You will get an update when I get my 5-year program in place. So that's information we're gonna be evaluating. I would like to say though, there's a few roads that we did that didn't have a ton of asphalt on it when we grinded it this year. But the base was still solid, and so we paved them anyways. And I still think so we didn't have to do extra repairs on them in order to pave. So we've got some good solid base on some of these roads because they've been, compacted fairly well and driven over for the last 30, 50 years that, we, now put nice pavement over them, as far as that goes, but they don't have completely the 4-inch. But,
So you're saying more roads can probably be brine and inlay treatment than we used to.
I'm leaning more that way.
More of them had
I
to.
might put 3 inches back instead of, 2, so that's where this program will give us an opportunity to look at that a little better instead of just saying. Because right now, I don't have the capacity to be like, hey, we're grinding and we're inlaying and that's it. Like, I don't have time to put together what other else does this road need, instead of being able to say, hey, this road needs a 3-inch, this road could use only a 2-inch, this road needs slurry seal. We have updated most of the city with slurry seal. We're to a point where we probably actually don't have enough roads to put out next year for a slurry seal. Because we have off it for the last like 4 years, which is fantastic.
Jim,
And
sorry, we're all fighting for, we need some geese in here, I guess.
Step is like.
Oh, that's old school. Janet, I don't wanna read too much of this, are you, is one of the reasons for taking this sort of year hiatus is to not only define the road program, but the other public works program, so that you get that work that, goes in, around, under the paved roads, and get those fixed before you come in and pave them, so you don't tear up your new paving. Is that part of this?
Really it's because, our existing SSMP program doesn't have residential in it, right? It is designed to basically maintain our collectors and our arterials. But our local roads are failing. And so really I was like, I want to pull that together and really make sure we're hitting those local roads. And they're getting that extra.
yeah, I think there is some of that, you're saying. There are also, I think it's managing the financial resources that we have limited financial resources, so if instead of doing a $500,000 overlay project by skipping a year, we can make a little bit more and a larger project that is more expensive, so. And with the, the cost per lane mile is cheaper that way.
Yeah, we got a great price. Probably our best price yet, and this is our biggest project this year. We budgeted at 2.7 million, got it in at 1.2.
But one,
Wow.
yeah, but one other thing I was just gonna say though too is like slurry seal. And it can be challenging depending on the contractor that we end up with, like we've worked with 2 contractors, I think, since I've been here.
Yeah.
One has performed well, and others sometimes it's been a little bit challenging with the quality of the work that they have.
So with the slurry seal, we also go out with a joint solicitation with Hillsborough. We may choose not to do that, so we have a little more flexibility on who we hire. I still strongly believe in our best value procurement method and being able to qualify contractors and get a bid price. So that has been fantastic.
Will the counselor or will the individual loves this? I think so much that I've seen on TSP for like our car infrastructure. Frankly, we have a lot of car infrastructure that looks great. What people want to see is maintained properly. I think this gets at a lot of those concerns. Now, to be Will the counselor who's a voice for the people that I hear from, I've heard a lot of people in my neighborhood around 30th, 31st, 32nd complain about the like materials of the slurry seal. They have said that it's like, this is beyond me, but they said it was too hot and the materials congealed in a funny way, and that it just like helped.
Comments this year,
Uh-huh,
not last year, right?
this year, yeah.
Totally different contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment as well.
Is there something,
That knowledge as well.
okay, is there, I guess, to go back to my neighbors, is there something that I can say about? Is this just it is what it is and it's better than it was, or is there something that will happen to the roads, they change over time, or is there like?
Well, they'll get swept and they'll get cleaned as far as that goes, and it'll pick up some debris if there's some slipping off of the slurry seal. I do find that this contractor has a slightly different kind of vinyl mix than the
Yeah.
other one, and I prefer the other one more so, and how it seals and with that. It's so really warm, and I was hoping that that would help seal it even better, but I'm wondering if that had a negative effect on actually putting it down, because
Yeah.
you know, it was so hot when they were doing it.
Yeah.
They just kept working, and they were just moving. My poor inspectors, I was like, oh my god, are you okay?
Yeah,
And one question the mayor asked me, Jen, is, with, I think in Island Station in particular, with the heat. This contractor removed the barriers probably a little sooner than it would have. Are we gonna kind of live with that, or are they gonna do any repair of, some of the tire tracks and treads that have?
I'm gonna be looking into it as far as I go, so that would go under like a punch list item, and we'll see what happens. I may not pay, there might be a few options there, but we haven't gone through that. So yeah, just.
There's no like putting a roller over it to try and
No.
smooth it out or anything
No.
like that at this point.
I mean, one of the things you can do with asphalt, you can use it here, heat up the asphalt and one slurry seal. You can't do that. It's a, emulsified asphalt liquid that, takes a little bit of time to cure and temperature and heat and how quickly you remove people, how quick you allow people to travel on it impacts like the aesthetic of it. I mean, it's really more of a very thin sort of seal coat or, water, infiltration and also very thin. It's not really like a large structural.
And Jen, remind me how we bid these projects, did we do a little bit?
We were over a little bit, yes.
there are some just like globs of slurry seal left over, are there tools that you can do to like?
They
show
should
us a little-
see that, as
Okay.
far as I know. So that would come through on a punch list type of deal.
Okay, is it helpful to take a picture and send it to you, or are you like, well, we do that in the punch list?
They walk every street.
Okay.
Every street, and I would say Chris is super detailed, like, you don't wanna get off of anything. So,
That's helpful.
I was gonna say, we got, we have those really nice, manhole covers that have the design.
Oh, they should clean.
They're not, there's big clumps of.
Yeah, so they haven't come through in a punch list yet, I believe they still have to come through and do marking still. So they haven't come by and restriped or put in stop bars and things like that. So, so that's where we're at in the story still. Is it's not finalized, but it's definitely got the big question of payment.
Beautification.
Yeah.
That's not.
Okay, any other questions on? Stanley, I don't know if you guys see it, but it's blue now.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It's blue. It is painted.
Yeah,
It's the Pastorelli risk.
weren't you when we did the above the. Oh, was it?
In a mural.
Right, so again, we're in punch list mode and getting ready to close out our Stanley tank, which is really exciting. So yeah, we'll be complete in the next probably month or two, with finalize punch list and all those lovely things. So we're excited. Okay. Harvey Street, it is starting, contractor submitted a schedule, we're looking at mid-October for construction, and that'll be happening. As far as that goes, so they will do utility first, and then we'll move to full park and things like that.
And this one you'll add Sharrows to party and.
Sharrows are already, Sharrows and green paint through the intersections will happen at this point.
Okay, will the green paint go on, I know one of the challenges that I've heard from people on 29th is the green paint is like in the pedestrian area, so if you're a bike, you have to get over to the side. Will it go
It'll be different.
where the bikes
Yeah.
traveling more?
Yes,
That sounds great.
King Road, next week, we're coming for award to Landis and Landis. And they will also look at starting in October, as I've got a contract deal being done next fall. So it will move very quickly. Now, the positive thing about this is I got a lot of feedback from community members going, oh my gosh, Linwood, the county's project took too long. We're not looking at that at all. We're gonna get in there and we're gonna get it done. It's also being run by Landis and Landis had the best quality bid on that.
And they also did Washington
Yes. And Arnold North actually.
and Southwest Capitol Highway.
I think a really strong point about this contractor is they are really great about communication and they work really hard with the community and let you know what's happening. They take on that burden and it helps the staff so much that they're communicating frequently and often with residents. So and also the schools and TriMet, like they're really great about, oh my gosh, we gotta make sure that they know what's happening. 2-lane traffic will still be maintained most of the time, only during non-peak hours will they probably go down to 1 lane to flag on certain spots. So they're probably, they're excited and they're getting ready to go. So you'll see that on the agenda for consent next week. Waverly South, Waverly Heights sewer reconfiguration. So this was a JEF project, and now that we've reorged, it's coming with the CIP group. Josh, who's running basically Washington and Arnold North, will be taking over as project manager. So the delay on this project has actually been easements. So we're still trying to get those easements in place. I really need those in place before we go off for construction. We had about half of the easements in place and the other half were a little rough. So that's where it just takes time. Whenever we have to do any kind of, acquisition or get easements from community members, it adds time to it.
So you guys, does our staff handle easements or do we have somebody who does that for us?
We work usually with somebody to write the easement, and sometimes it goes faster when we actually help administer that conversation with the owner. Because we're here right here, and like, hey, let's have a meeting, what's going on? Like, how can we help you? How can we do this? When you have an outside source, sometimes it can take longer.
Because we heard in the context of Kellogg that Metro does the easements for some of these projects, but we're not using Metro.
We're not using Metro for this project at all. We have a sub-consultant on our consult team that's helping us actually draft those and put all the legal descriptions together. We don't do legal descriptions, so we do have at least that. So yeah, the idea is as soon as those easements are in place, Josh, the documents are ready to be put on bonfire, so we can go out to bid as soon as we get that. Important about this project is we are getting West funds from this. So 33% project costs, West is covering. And that is through their I&I program, which they would like to see us reduce 65% of our I&I by 2040. The purpose of that is because we don't reduce our I&I, we send more wastewater to Kellogg. Kellogg is fully expanded. There's no more room. So if we oversize Kellogg, we then have to build a pump station to go to Tri-Cities. If you think the pump station for Kellogg is expensive, this one will be even more. A lot.
So how do you have, we've talked about I&I for years and all of this. When you do this project, will we know how much it reduced I&I?
We're gonna do 2 projects. So there's an upcoming project that's a lining project throughout the city. It's about $1 million worth of lining. After those 2 projects are done, we're gonna look at putting in monitors so we can see how much is reduced from the previous study.
Okay.
So that is in place, but I would like to get those 2 projects because those are the 2 main projects that are the biggest projects that we've done for wastewater. That would show an impossible reduction in I&I.
Yeah, when we did a lot of monitoring. When we were working on the wastewater system thing back in 2022, I think. And generally our system is in pretty good condition, but like the Waverly Place and these other projects, we have $1 million, another $1 million project that will really help us sort of achieve or sort of get close to our required reduction. So.
And so this is a pipe bursting project, or this is an actual trenching?
No.
No.
We'll be lining.
Lining?
Yeah, put a pulling, it's a UV liner that comes through this for this one. The other one will probably do a different method because it's just, we're in the back of $1 million homes and it's not a capacity issue at this point. It's a, roots are intruding, things like that. So we can run a rototiller through there, clean up that and then pull this new liner through. It goes from manhole to manhole, basically. So it's not as much intrusion as an open cut, which is nice. That saves us actually quite a bit. But both of these programs would qualify for the West program where we get 33% of the paid for. So, they're important steps to looking at our infrastructure and making sure we don't have later, bigger costs because we didn't do that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, Waverly South and 26th Avenue improvements. This is approaching a 60% design. Hector is designing it in-house. It is one of our smaller projects, but it is actually really critical. We have some residents, especially in the Waverly South area, where we've got a sewer line that's deteriorating. We've got an undersized water line, has actual water quality issues. That needs to be upsized. And then we have a few little ramps and it needs to be paved. It's an area that needs to be paved. So this is also, I would like to get it out to bid as soon as it hits 100% progress. And Hector's moving that forward, which is great. I'm expecting this month though 60% design. And then we attached 26th Avenue improvements on with it. It's just a slightly bigger project. It's about $1 million project altogether.
I'm gonna do this with every road apparently. Lava Drive is on our TSP. Will that one have sharrows as you do it? As I think a neighborhood street.
In like all the way up the hill.
Not all the way, just Lava Drive, not
Just-
like,
oh.
yes.
That's an easy thing to put in there as far as that goes. So we can. I haven't seen the 60% design.
That's
yet,
fair,
so
yeah.
it's coming.
Okay,
But yeah,
Yeah.
That's a really easy item, yeah.
I mean, I do think the parking, having some clarity around parking on the drive once it's done will be
There's a
important.
question we're looking at right now that at least helping me with, so we'll have a little clarity on that these two soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Monroe Greenway. We are, so our East Washington Monroe section from Glenwood all the way to 37. We received 9% design drawings and we're getting ready to get those back to ODOT. So they have a huge process. Once they get that 9%, they then have multiple divisions that it goes through. This will not go out to bid until next June. So we're gonna get them their stuff and then we'll get some comments back and things like that. But it will not go out to bid until next June. So that's just kind of
The ODOT time.
that's the ODOT, yes, that's the ODOT time frame, that's where I'm at. I don't control that schedule and I cannot move it forward, so that's where we're at. Centers.
The O stands for.
Oh, just you wait.
So the exciting part is Central Monroe Greenway, we started design. We're gonna have our first engagement in October, someone should pay attention. So they haven't given me a date yet for it, but we should hear about when public engagement event will happen. And so I bet you we're gonna put ours out either about the same time or even before ODOT does theirs. We might even build it before, probably the intersection. I guarantee we'll probably be done before the intersection, just because we can move so much faster. And
Is it a competition?
I maybe go check out box.
Performance metric, for very performance driven.
The other piece of this is the east segment. We will not be managing even the construction of that. Will be completely delivered by ODOT. And they will have a consultant do that. I tried, I said, hey, so are we gonna be able to provide inspection? They're like, no. So. It is what it is. And we're just gonna have to keep moving through that piece.
Do you know, the county has opened the road part of Monroe, on their stretch of Monroe. They've opened the road from Linwood to the elementary school, not all the way to Fuller, but they haven't actually built the path. Do you know when their timeline is or what's going on out there?
I know it's under construction. I don't actually have
Okay.
an idea of their. I'm working with Penn for our sailing section, but I haven't asked them
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
their section and how it's
I mean,
going.
they have a traffic, whatever, roundabout there, which looks very nice, so.
I bet it's gonna take about 2 years to construct it fully.
Yeah.
It seems their projects take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And then a slave driver.
And I, some clarity here.
Yeah.
The intersection at Oak and Monroe is one of our TSP projects for cars with a mini roundabout. And there's a bike TSP project that was elevated on 34th. And now there's this central Milwaukie segment that we're designing. I guess how do these all, it seems like that intersection is especially like a hotbed for transportation bottleneck. How do you layer on all those projects or do them separately or design in a way that incorporates all of those?
Well, it's really close to the railroad.
Yeah,
So what we're doing is right now we've got a kind of a study of what do we do to get across the railroad or the greenway as well. I'm gonna have to add that intersection because it's so close, right?
Yeah.
Or that goes, so we're gonna have to expand that scope. Which just kind of came up in that TSP, so that hasn't been expanded yet, so we do have to look at that. It's also, I don't think I can build that roundabout until we figure out what we're gonna do with the water treatment plant on that south property.
sure.
What we've discovered is we are going to have to move that treatment to the north side of our being 40.
Okay.
There's not enough space to do PFAS treatment at the lower treatment plant. What that means is an opportunity then though, of that space to actually relook at it for this potential of a roundabout and bringing that bikeway in. But how that's gonna layer is we gotta first move the treatment plant. So treatment plan is gonna be first priority as far as that goes, and then improvements to that intersection, because you need the space to make that happen. There's not enough space to put a mini roundabout without getting onto our property.
Yeah.
Right?
Which leads me to then, I mean, if you're throwing in changing around the side of the road, because you have this additional property that you can play with, how do we design this segment so that it still has connectivity, even if we do this roundabout project? Or like, I guess, what is it?
Oh, because all I'm doing is I have the corner at that intersection, we can go right down Oak. So
Okay,
we will have a connection to go right down Oak or across the street and down Oak.
okay,
I won't be touching the actual intersection until we're ready to do that bigger piece.
okay.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. The only worry that I would have is like, I think about that 7 acres apartment, that little L stretch. There is, the way that the multi-use path was designed is you turn down the L to go on our little Washington Street cutoff that we decided to do. A lot of bikes still will take the multi-use path, bike off of that multi-use path back onto the road. So there's this little naked stretch of grass now that is at that intersection of 37 and Monroe. And so the only point there is like, bikes are using it still to go straight on that intersection. It's important
Oh,
to still.
up and Rook.
Yeah, and so it's important that we still, even if we're not designing necessarily, like we totally can just go down Oak. But having that small connectivity that allows people to still access the street and whatever the intersection is, either untreated like it is now or treated in the future, I think it's important. Does that make sense? Or am I talking too big?
I think, I mean, yeah, I think it's something to look at
Okay.
as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But I think there's some really interesting things we can do here, it's just, we're gonna have to. There's a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot, that intersection of Oak.
Yeah.
Railroad and Grove.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely an intersection
Yeah.
we need to fix, but.
I would not have thought of that intersection as the focal point of a lot of our transportation routes walking. But ironically, like their TSP how it shaped up, or something along the bikeway plan that we adopted. And intersections getting a lot of attention. I'm glad that we've got some wiggle room in some project area. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, Stanley improvements. Right now, we're in negotiations, talking with a consultant. Until we have those in place, we're just working through it. Taking a little longer than I expected, but the county's managing that, but we're involved with it. So, still negotiations. Hopefully we have some things to.
That one is, the county's funding some, but we're going for safe routes money for some. Is there enough money to do it without the safe routes money?
It pretty much means our lowest project has been.
Okay,
So, we have money in the CIP for design right now. We put that in, we put that in just in case if we want to make sure we have design money. I would say this is still about 18 months out before we would go out for construction from whenever we sign a contract. So we haven't even signed a contract yet, we still got like 18 months before this is gonna go out. I'm hoping to go out for another safe routes to school grant. Revamp that a little bit different, maybe pull off a little bit money to save it's a little more,
because winning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Knowing the safe routes grants last time, this was like the third year and there were 25 projects funded, so it was close to that cutoff list.
but nobody got over $2 million and we asked for 3 million.
And I guess the question then that I had is, did they? I know Safe Routes folks had said that they would offer a breakdown of why projects didn't score higher. Did they ever actually follow through on that, or
No.
have they talked to you? Okay.
I didn't. So. Yeah. So anyways, we would have time to go back out for another round of that, but at the same time, I do have to fund it in this next CIP. So it'll move forward in the next CIP. And based off of, we'll hear about our prioritization, but we ran it through our prioritization and it does score highly as far as like, because we're getting funds, right? We are getting 60% of it, funded by the county. So that's a huge amount. Help us move that project forward.
Are you the best point of contact to connect with state staff to talk about this a bit more, or?
Yes.
Okay.
My name's on the application.
Yes.
And it's more of a program thing than a.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next update, you're probably gonna see these individually broken out because they're gonna become actual like individual projects, but we're gonna talk about it on one slide for today. So well 8, where we're at, we're retesting for PFAS. This is important. If the well is PFAS, then that changes what we do with this well, right? If it needs to be treated for that, then it impacts what we do with this water. Do we have to pump it to the new location of 40 Harvey? Is it even worthwhile keeping this well where it is, or do we need to relook at a relocation? Once we answer that question, then we can look to see about cleaning the well and seeing how viable it is to actually utilize it. This is still a priority for me because we wanna know what's happening with that well. Right now, we haven't used it for over 10 years now, Peter.
Yeah.
So we're not utilizing the water rights of it, we're not using the capacity of it whatsoever, it's just sitting there. And so if we decide that it's needs more, that it's not that cleaning is not gonna help it, then we need to figure out and plan for a new well. in the city. Water treatment plant. We're working through the study. We're prepping to have a column test done, which evaluates 3 different treatment possibilities for treating PFAS. We're moving that forward, just working with procurement to get that secured. EPA has extended the compliance to 2031, so we're kind of adjusting our schedules and figuring out what that looks like. And then we've applied for a safe drinking water loan. They come back and said we can get a $6 million loan. We're approved. Well, there's not approved. Are you interested type of deal, that's where we're at. 3 million of it will be unforgivable. The other 3 million we'll have to pay back.
Unforgivable or forgivable?
Forgivable. And then, so we would be subject to $3 million loan. However, because we are considered a disadvantage, we would probably get a reduced interest rate on that than what they're currently offering everybody else. We don't know what that is yet, so we said we're interested, and we're looking at putting an application in to see what those rates would be. If that's, if that looks good and we feel confident about it and they accept our application, then we come on.
How are we disadvantaged?
I think it's based on some sort of economic
Okay.
indicator. The Oregon Biz has suggested that we met that criteria. I think I shared with you a couple weeks ago, maybe during the affordability discussion, it was like, there's 2 bins of money. This is this first safe drinking water revolving loan fund that we can use for pretty much a lot. There's a lot more uses that we can use that money for. And then there's the other bin that's strictly related to emerging contaminants that you can only use for like the treatment pieces. And we'll apply for that as well. We're gonna incorporate like what this means with the rate study that we're doing, like what's the impact to the rates using these funds that are available.
But super excited that we're looking at possibly getting 3 million forgivable loan, which is fantastic. Like that's something that is definitely a nice piece to.
I think it should just to clarify, they forgive the principal, but you still have to pay the interest amount.
Of course, yeah.
But it's a good deal.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll take.
I'll take it. Okay, we're evaluating our concrete tank. As I think, did you get results on it? I didn't hear about the results.
We did get we had somebody dive and do a dive inspection into the tank and take a look at it. I think Steve got the information. There wasn't a significant change from last time, and we recommended some improvements, recommended replacing the liner. There's a liner in the concrete reservoir, and some seismic improvements. I think that's the general gist of the.
This is the tank with the mural on it?
Yes. Yes. And then we've just collected a bunch of data to start looking at some hydraulics for the new reservoir and our system. So that's up and coming. Spot program. All right, there's another project of ours. So these are 3 pictures of things we've installed. So solar RFB at Stanley and Haro. Speed bumps at Wichita installed. We've got positive feedback on those, which has been fantastic from Camilo. There's a flashing light at Harrison. The flashing light had a sign up there, make people a little more aware that they're coming up on a stop sign. And we're working right now on the shared road signs in Island Station. They're not completely installed yet, but they are very close. Those are the 4 main projects besides what we did on 29th Avenue that have been approved and constructed.
Stanley and Harlow.
It's across the street from the reservoir. The park,
Oh, okay.
the park, so it's the park entrance, right there. And then just north of the school, Linwood, backside of Linwood.
Okay.
And then we have 7 more proposals going to PSAC in September.
Huge fan of the spot program, love seeing all these projects coming on board. And I pitch my dream of what we do. with the
Yeah.
Spot program. I would love if we could have a hokey little like sign that says project requested by,
This was made possible by the spot program.
not by the spot program, by the like resident who submitted it, like. Rebecca Scavenger's little rapid flashing beacon or whatever, like,
You can pitch that to PSAC to you as far as I'm concerned.
well, I was gonna say, if I paid for it out of my council budget, could we, how expensive is it to like bolt that up for? Like a tiny little metal sign?
Well, I will say, there will be a naming policy brought to you on October 21st. Part of which has a sub-policy that is about. What do we call it, like,
Dedication.
dedications for financial contributions, so I think maybe we revisit this there, because that would be very connected to this, if you try to find a financial, I mean, this isn't a financial contribution, but.
Yeah.
But I would say, I would agree with Jen, I think that PSAC is an advisory body to you.
Yeah.
But it'd probably be nice to get PSAC's thoughts on this as the body you have deputized to administer this program.
Well, could I make a friendly amendment?
I love
To-
it. Yeah,
Well, first of all, I'd only be in favor of this if it's bold.
Yeah.
Secondly,
Uh-huh.
if it comes from your council budget, then I think there should be a second sign.
But the sign is
Attached to
possible.
the first
Uh-huh.
sign that says this sign was made possible by this.
So the only thing you're gonna
The
double,
will is made possible by his mother.
Have you seen the SNL school where they don't unfold themselves?
so we do, the one caveat I'll say is, we do need to be careful on how many signs we're putting on like a sign. And there are some things that we distract,
I need tiny like
yeah, okay,
postcard size.
alright.
But I think it's not, you all can say it's a foolish idea, but I love this program. The
So-
like number one complaint we get is like, my neighborhood's not safe or And this program is directly allowing people to like feel like they can change their neighborhoods. And then it's cute to celebrate them for like being active and dreaming and seeing this.
It's a good idea to show appreciation for how the suggestion came about. I don't know about putting an individual's name on the sign. I would rather maybe say something like, you know, this. Improvement was made possible by a resident suggestion in the X neighborhood. Or something along those lines, because then you're promoting the neighborhood, you know,
Yeah.
where they go through that path to talk with a PSEC rep, or they, you know, like it's,
Or.
I know.
I'm a
but-
softie, I'm not sold, but we can talk about this name calls. And I can be in the minority and I'll be fine.
Also, PSAC is putting together a pilot article for October to celebrate these projects and put a QR code to the form to fill out if anyone else has things.
Now that's a sign I can get.
At the very least, you know, I do think that the cheap yard signs like we do for the greenways, something like that, that's temporary, that it could say. This improvement was made possible by the spot program, QR code to submit
A
one.
little ribbon cutting, and we're about to go.
Oh, with little anglers.
Yeah, well, I don't care how big they are, I'll put the ribbon at
Oh my
myself.
god.
Surgical scissors.
Or the end of the year, maybe they celebrate all the projects that they did.
Yeah.
You know, and do a little like celebration as far as that goes, so that's another idea.
I'll say 30,000, but I wanna celebrate our people.
Celebrate the
Right, right,
Yeah.
Putting a person's
I won't say
name
how
on a
big the
sign
ribbon
is
has
not
to be.
30,000
Yeah.
foot.
You're good at volunteer, I think, too.
Oh, that's true.
That's a great idea.
Invite the person who put in for it,
Aw.
the volunteer, maybe they can give a chance to come up, give a applause, maybe a certificate or something.
There's ways to
Now
recognize.
that's.
Yeah.
Yes.
They do a little.
I like it.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
They're really-
Yeah.
Alright, any other questions on the spot so the spot program has been managed by Jeff.
It's not just.
I'm now gonna be stepping into that role on PSAC, so we're in transition period.
Did you say?
Jeff, so you know, and half of engineering or part of engineering moved to Public Works.
Oh.
Jeff Tolentino has been managing this.
So you say left.
No,
Okay.
no, so I'm just taking over PSAC, starting in November. Or transitioning September and October. I needed a little help,
7 applications.
and I just looked at them, so just like that. Okay, little news, I still have not heard about our grant for Harrison, so if you have any pull to say, hey, what's going on, I can use your help.
Is it a federal grant?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
Yes, that's for it.
Merkley earmark. Well, it wasn't earmark, it was Merkley.
So I still would love to do this study, right? We need this for Harrison. This is how we're gonna move our Harrison project forward. It is gonna need federal dollars, so.
The last update from Murphy's office was positive, but it's been crickets from the actual minutes.
Yeah.
Crickets except for the
So-
lovely.
I was gonna say, it's been a couple months since we heard from Sarah. Right?
Yeah.
I'll check in with her.
On the upside, we did get RAPA funds for railroad. I forgot to put that up here. But RAPA for railroad design,
That's awesome.
so you're gonna see that in the CIP. As far as that goes, that's coming unfunded from the unfunded chapter, moving to the CIP.
And that's the one where the community helped vote.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
We did, and it pulled us up, to get those funds.
Oh, that's cool.
So
That was giving a long shot.
it was very, we thought it was a long shot too. So that is incredible. So there's a lot of projects that aren't just something we can delay, right? We can't delay, we either not take these funds and step away, which only has a 10% match, or we take it and run with it, right? So that's what's gonna really drive our CIP in the next couple of years. In addition, I forgot to put on there too, is Clackamas County is giving us funds to evaluate, safety assessment at, Harmony Lake Railroad in Linwood.
The worst intersection in the world.
$750,000. State, their bucket.
Huh.
To do the assessment. I think it's in 2020.
the raised intersection.
Maybe, I don't know yet.
The only solution to
Don't
just add
know.
one shaft up. Just a launch.
But it's a first step.
Yeah.
It's a step towards, hey, we're looking at this, they think it's really important, so they're giving us money. So that was also approved. That'll also be in the new CIP. Coming up. Upcoming, downtown streetscape improvements, we're gonna have a charter ready for that, for the end of this month. And, that's looking at, updating this all the way to Soto, Washington, where we finished the south downtown.
Okay, yeah, I was confused because in your chart or somewhere. It seemed like there was a division of north of Harrison and south of Harrison or something.
There isn't an original like SAFE program, but I'm just trying to get this piece of it, then we'll have another piece that goes north.
So it's going to City Hall. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little worried we don't have quite enough funds, we have to look, that's the biggest thing for, we have to look at is, we may have to break it up into 2 phases, but we're gonna see, we have to look at that a little bit more.
We are aware, I think part of that, gentleman, I'm misspeaking, but.
Yeah.
We know there's a jaywalking problem, there's a U-turning problem, there's a
Yeah.
lot of problems right around here, so engineering, design, and safety issues.
Okay. So that would look at all of that, we would stop just short of Henley Place.
Okay.
And then our sewer lining project that we talked about earlier is, that'll be an in-house design, it's pretty straightforward, and I'd like to get it out this winter. Josh will be managing that project. Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
You're on.
Yeah.
I did a
Nice
great
job, Jen. This is your new CIP dream team, folks. They're together every day for hours. Sounds like a CIP reality show. What happens?
I can sing with the civil engineer.
So I think we did a pretty good job in staff report sort of outline and trying to accomplish with prioritizing the CIP. I'm just gonna be really sort of brief tonight, because I think in November, I want to come back, I want to spend some more time. I'm gonna show you really like, I'll talk a little bit about why we want to do this, why we're prioritizing projects using this prioritization framework. You know, what we hope to accomplish by doing that, and so show you the basic criteria, and then some samples of what it looks like. Which button? There we go. So why are we doing this? Well, really, it's part of refining the process to improve on deliverability. We want to, this is going to help us. We've talked about this, I think, in our affordability discussions as one of our strategies of right sizing our CIP, making sure that, it fits our financial resources, but also our, Jen's used this word a couple times, capacity projects. The engineering team has been delivering lots of projects. We've got lots of projects in the works, but we also have a lot of projects that you see in the CIP document that are just sort of sitting there and moving and getting deferred. So we're trying to right size it to make sure that it reflects what we can really execute in the buy-in and in that 6-year plan. One of the other things we're looking at doing, we've been talking about, is making a distinction between our large maintenance projects that we have, space hill overlays, and our true capital improvement plans that require significant design work and significant project management work associated with that. And I really want to about that over program, right? We want to be also able to perhaps reallocate some of those dollars to operations and maintenance needs that we have. Continue to build more green infrastructure. I still only have one person to maintain green infrastructure, so we want to reallocate some of these dollars that are programmed for capital projects that were challenged and fully execute. So one of the things that we're looking at doing is using a prioritization framework to help us prioritize projects. So we're looking at how do projects align with our different policies, our TSP, our climate action plan, comprehensive plan, our other system plans that we have. Is there a regulatory compliance component? Are we required by some sort of regulation to do our DFAS? A good example of that, or an NPDES compliance requirement for stormwater. What's the condition of the asset? Where is it within its life cycle? We've talked a lot about life cycle of pavement, but we have other buried infrastructure that we don't see day to day, that we want to make sure that we're being diligent and making good choices on when we replace that. So trying to factor those into the evaluation. Equity, are we doing work in a way that promotes equity? Are we spreading the wealth throughout the community, making sure that that we're intentional, not unintentionally missing places. Looking at how it helps us meet and achieve some of our sustainability goals, our climate work that we're doing, and factoring in community engagement and external funding. If we get 60% or 70% of the funding, that project certainly raises up on the list of trying to get it done. I think when we look at this, it sort of helps us sort of flatten some of our rate projections, because we've got a program that's more executable, more realistic. We're not going to the ratepayers or funding that we're just putting away in the bank and not using. It also helps us, make strategic decisions on how we're deferring projects. It's just don't have the time, or we're sort of consciously looking at how it sort of fits in that matrix that we have. And maybe those projects that have lower impacts to the community, you know, we're moving those out. And it really sort of helps us also improve that coordination between funding, our staff capacity. You know, we have, you know, Jen, one of the goals in this is like, Jen is not gonna manage individual projects, she's gonna manage the program, our CMP program. And her engineering staff, the two engineers that we have will be those project managers. And that I think will go a long way, but it's not just the engineering staff capacity, it's our operational staff. We are heavily involved with those projects, our SCADA project, the Stanley Reservoir, that took time from our water team to be out there and be part of the project team. So we have to make sure that we're capturing those sorts of things and how it impacts all the teams in the city.
Even when you bring on a consultant, you still need staff to pull that in, right? Make sure we're doing we're achieving what we want. So it still takes staff time. So be aware.
So when we were doing this, we took a look at like, I should say too, we've had lots of discussions with Brad on this. I think we started discussions back 18 months ago, yeah, almost 2 years ago on this, and have walked through the evaluation criteria, how we are, what scoring we're attributing to each factor and how we rate them. So here's the different criteria and how we weight them. So let's say, I'll take a look at the comprehensive planning outcome and policy alignment. So you can score up to 3 points, and the scoring matrix that we have, it goes from 1 to 3, or 0 to 3 actually, depending on how it fits in there. And the more that it's aligned with different policies and system plans that we have, the more points that you get. And then we weight that by 3. So if you get a 3, if you know you're aligned with three of those policies and system plans, then you'll score a total of 9 points on that. Regulatory compliance, you know, that's something we wanted to make sure that we weighted that high, because that's sort of like we have a requirement and mandate. You can potentially face some sort of financial penalties if we don't meet those requirements that are regulated. We took a look at sound fiscal stewardship. That's the component of wait a minute, I'm drawing a blank there. I'll get back to that one if I can think about that. But efficient and effective processes, that's the criteria that we're looking at. Does it improve our processes? Are we improving how we deliver services within the city? You can score up to 3, and it's only weighted by 1. So you score 3 at the most if you hit those targets. Equity and inclusion, like how are we redistributing, like I said, distributing the funding appropriately throughout the community. We've weighted that with the 2, environmental sustainability. You know, that's where we're looking at also like energy savings on projects, you know, things that tie in with our things. Things that tie in with our climate action work that we've identified. So, you know, in this case, SAFE is a program that we've identified as strengthening our climate action. So that would be a point for me. That's SAFE. So it's a point there. The sound fiscal stewardship, that's how is it going to affect our operating budget? Is this like going to be a project that's going to have additional cost for us to maintain, or does it reduce our cost because now we don't have to go out there and. You know, do lots of repair and maintenance, to keep it fixed. So what's that impact on our operational budget over the lifetime of that facility? Does it require, would that new facility require additional resources? I think one of the examples we'll have, I think I had it in the staff report, when they piece, having a new post station will require more time. We had now to send somebody out there to go check it routinely, and it's something that we have to do. So that would sort of be like a negative against that sort of piece. Community engagement, does the project include engagement dollars? Is it gonna improve community satisfaction within different outcome areas like pedestrian, transportation, parks, economic development, community affordability, arts and culture? Talked a little bit about asset condition already. But that's really looking at, like, are we at the appropriate place in replacing set within its life cycle? External funding, they'll score for 6 points. And it's really sort of dependent on like what percentage of the project outside sources. And then economic development. Is there an economic development? Is it a project that will encourage future economic growth and increase tax revenue, or will help us achieve some of those things, like the downtown business improvements, Main Street improvements might be a good example of a project where you would see a higher score because we're replacing sidewalks, infrastructure downtown, help maybe spur some development. So one of the things that we've done is we've taken some of our, I'll say some of the core projects that got like our focus on right now. Some of them we've talked about that are coming up in design, and use these criteria to sort of see how they scored out. I think I provided a copy of this in the staff report. But when we've done this, we've had a ranking of all the way up of 41 for larger water treatment plant projects that we've talked about, all the way down to 15 for individual well 5.
And again, we weren't planning to discuss this tonight, because there's gonna be a lot of time to do that in November. But we just wanted to kind of give you the status update on how we're applying the criteria, and just make sure at this stage if you have any questions or concerns.
And then I think how we see us using this tool is to have to sort of place projects into the different years in our capital improvement plan and use, and then how do we resource that, the funds and the staff that we have to manage these projects.
So my computer died, but as I recall, you also had a chart in there that showed where they are in the what calendar year or what budget year they were in. That column's not in this table.
I did, because I was looking at that today and I said, that's
Accurate.
fully accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my question from that is would that change
Yes.
because of this rating? So you would, things that maybe say 28, 29 or 29, 30 or whatever might move up because they came, and other things might move down
Yes.
because they didn't help.
Yeah.
That's how, yeah, so we need to develop that new CIP, right? And we're gonna use this criteria to be like, oh, this scored 5, let's move that up a little bit. And we have more projects we have to score now too, right? Like, so that's the other piece of it.
Yeah, these are like the big projects that we feel like we're like core that we're coming up into the upcoming biennium, or there are projects that we had planned in this biennium that we had started on. So
I think important description here is also like Lotus, if you look at it, it's actually dropped a little bit lower on some things. So I think it's a reason to we're probably gonna move it down and Stanley or even Ardenwold South may come up higher on that because they're way up here. Doesn't mean it's not off the list. But we're probably gonna shift things a little bit. Which also align, I think, with our new TSP that's also coming out. Which we'll be talking about the new TSP list next Tuesday.
So when
Prioritization link.
we see this in November, will we see the actual full sheet score analysis of how Locust ended up being below our goal stops? So,
Like notes for underpinning these scores.
Yeah.
Mayor.
We have that in
have
the,
it.
in the spreadsheet, it's built into the spreadsheet, but I guess we'd have to figure out how you can display that. Because like with each score, we said, this is why.
Yeah.
It's scored that way.
I think we could provide it in a staff report
Yeah.
and go on and answer questions, but.
I do wanna say though, like, we're not gonna have a full CIP by November. It'll be a start of it. The full draft of the CIP is not expected until February.
Yeah.
So just.
An indication of where we're going though, in
Yeah.
terms of prioritization.
I have two questions. One is a more weedy question, one's more high level. The weedy one maybe first, something like Monroe Street Greenway. Why would its sustainability score be so low? Or I guess how are we deriving?
I think when we looked at it,
It didn't meet all three
it didn't meet all three
criteria.
of the criteria
For
for
sustainability,
sustainability, or it didn't,
so resilience might not be
yeah, so,
interesting.
so for example, like when we look at sustainability, it's based on and the idea is we'll get into more detail on this, but like, does the proposed project help meet the climate goals of the city? So we scored that yes for that. Does the proposed project improve green space or access to residential use of public land for environmentally sustainable uses? I don't think we gave it a point for that. And then does the proposed project account for the adaptation? Like, is it a project that reduces the severity of flooding or extreme temperatures and those types of things? It did score, I think probably up to 9 points for the policy alignment, which had the climate action plan, so we supported, got that sort of benefit there.
Yeah.
But it didn't get these other benefits, so it only got that 1 point from there.
I think it's an observation already about this process. And I'm gonna tell you, I have some thoughts on this and that, I think that this list, and if we're gonna provide some backup and assumptions and everything like that, it's gotta get out there before the staff report, goes public. And, at least this part.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as these questions come up, as they inevitably will.
Yeah.
This is gonna, I would suggest we get those questions in to Peter or whoever you designate to try to get some of these questions answered, or we will be here with 3 nights.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just saying, it's gonna require some work,
100%.
homework on our part.
100%, and I do, to Jen's point, I mean, you don't need to have we don't have a draft CIP till February, so I think our November milestone is really trying to give you as much preliminary information about how we're applying this. And then answer your questions both at the budget committee, but also, afterwards, so that we can be refining it and taking your direction, because you may disagree, you may say, there's like kind of a shadow 10th column, which is political direction. And if you give us direction, we can reevaluate that.
I think,
I would caution against that, Colin.
Great world.
I guess the reason I ask is if there are breakdown, what's kind of shown in the staff report is category breakdowns, but then what you're describing, Peter, is each category has a sub breakdown of
Yes.
the points.
Yeah.
Can we see those sub breakdowns to better understand?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We actually have.
It's all laid out.
How it's formed.
Tonight was supposed to be the sneak preview, this has been more.
Okay. Tonight is not the time to give feedback on the prioritization.
Tonight is
or-
not the time to give feedback on the.
I don't need the credit, like the order, I need the like buckets.
Yeah.
Or is it?
I mean, I think it is, so as you
Yeah.
said, we've been workshopping this methodology with Quack for about a year and a half now. So I do think, and why we put it in the staff report is, yeah, if you're like, we're missing a total methodological point, we need to know that. But going line by line through this, not the point of tonight.
I was just gonna say, we're really looking at using this as like an internal tool. Like,
Yeah.
this is, like, if there are questions, like, why did you pick, why did this project end up here?
Yeah.
We've got a methodology, we've used this criteria.
Yeah.
And this is how, this is why it's probably.
Before I get killed.
Oh. I actually, with this too.
I guess the question that I would have, the larger like feedback I would have on this is the buckets, I think to me all look fine, but I am really curious. Before we roll it out for a CIP project, the sub buckets to understand those.
Yeah.
And I guess the one bucket that I kind of see missing here is. Like, where would our goals fall into this? Something like Kellogg
That's,
is uniquely like.
that's gonna be to see the policy.
CPO and
CPO policy.
Tech dev has its own column and sustainability has its own column, I mean, I think we
Is
wanted
there-
us to live on beyond just goals, but I do think the policy alignment is, goals are one of the things we are looking for. So.
I kind of say this facetiously, cause like sustainability, we have a parks and green space thing that's included in there. And ECDev has its own column that has even more weight than the parks and green space. And affordability has no column outside of just the policy or like.
Or equity, there's equity.
Yeah, that's true. I guess understanding. Is goals just, are we fine with goals being implicit throughout different things, but maybe weighted differently, or
Well, I
do we wanna?
mean, we
Well,
did
this
this on the
was too-
span of this project prioritization, like if we want this to be.
Yeah.
Projects that are prioritized until the next TSP, that's like, what, 7 to 10 years, like,
Yeah.
are we gonna be here?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, councils determine goals in a smaller set of increments, and we want.
Yeah.
These projects and the policies to be influenced by the goals and the work that we're doing, but not defined for the work of the future council.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think the comp plan, the things that are under CPO and policy and comp plan with TSP are the longer
Yeah.
range
Yeah.
things that it should be more tied to.
I think when we
Send
have the discussion and, we'll dig into more of like what's really the full components of those criteria and how, what's the internal criteria that we're scoring.
And here's what I'd say to push back if you guys disagree. Those methodological notes already exist, they've been shared with the quack.
Sure.
So we can provide that as a follow-up after this meeting and then review it and then chat with me in an upcoming one-on-one if you've got concerns and we can circle back before the November meeting.
And I guess that was the process that I was understanding. In November, we're not talking about the buckets anymore. The buckets are closed. We're talking about the list.
Talking about the list and we're talking about the shadow column. Of political direction, because you guys could say that one that scored 16
So
is
all,
most important for these 5-member council, make sure it gets in there. That's the type of political direction you guys get to give,
so all our notes about the buckets should come in before.
should come before.
And we should provide those to you in a one-on-one after, like, how do we get consensus?
Well, I mean, I think it's also, I mean, your quack has endorsed this.
Yeah.
So let us send it around. And then if I think and read it, and if you have significant concerns, bring it to me, and if I hear significant concerns, I'll put it on an agenda so that we can discuss it prior to November.
Well, it's just one of a few ideas of how to prioritize. I know you guys worked on it for a long time. Were there other
This is the product of the 18 months of iteration with the quack.
I think you'll find very similar.
I was curious.
That use criteria to help them prioritize.
And I will say,
Yeah,
this is more rigor than I think we've had in a very long time for how we develop and prioritize.
So I guess I will say, I don't know if it's the shadow column, but I do feel like one piece that's not here that I'm a little bit worried about is, I mean, overall, I think it's great, is community expectations. It's like Locust Road. We've been talking Locust Road is coming soon, Locust Road is coming soon, quite a while. Once we did 43rd, then Locust Road became kind of more important. So I do think that needs to be part of the conversation in some way.
I wonder, this is where I'm gonna be like bad sport, but I think that would be a great sub bucket under community engagement. And it would, I think, be valuable to look at sub buckets, and if the format is we're gonna do it one-on-ones.
I think
we should
that's-
stay out of the meeting.
Actually,
Do you wanna stay for 2 hours?
well, I think that's actually, and that's part of that community. So is that project, is it gonna improve community satisfaction with one of those outcomes and for the project being?
So,
So it is part of that.
Yeah. So we'll send that methodological notes out tomorrow. Hit me with it, Will.
It's several pages, it is detailed out, so make comments, that'd be fantastic.
times 41.
That's my favorite.
Next slide.
Any other, like, I'm taking it, no other comments, okay.
Other comments? I think the other thing we wanted to talk about, because I think in the staff report, we used that prioritization criteria to look at what does it mean? California as a project. Or the Kellogg Creek pump station is what I'm calling it now, or sewer line relocation, right? So, I mean, basically, we're looking at, a construction cost of about $4.5 million, $2025. And then some additional long-term O&M costs associated with our with the operations of that facility. We've had the rate consultant look at it to see like what's the impact to the utility. The wastewater fund is a fund that actually has some a significant reserve. So the impact isn't as large as it might be with some other projects. But what they do say is it can be funded with, if we're just using our internal funds, it could be funded in ratepayer dollars with some modest increases of 2.5%. And that would be, sort of over the lifespan of that design construction phase. So a 2.5% increase on our rates right now for that average residential customer actually works out about $1.25. Right? It's about $66.65.
So is it additional 2.5% on top of what are already increases?
Well, right now, we haven't fact, we don't have, it would be an additional 2.5%.
So whatever.
I think what they were looking at was, and I can verify this again. I think they were looking at, we're gonna need to have, there's a couple increases that we'll need to do to track with inflation and changes in O&M, but it would require an additional modest increase, so not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But it's, it's $1.25.
And it is worth saying that this is assuming the city assumes the full construction cost. So there, as you heard last time we talked about this, there's opportunities for grants, for loans. Loans have some forgivable component, some ongoing expense. So we're showing you kind of I want to call it the worst case scenario, but I think it's important for CIP budgeting that you kind of know that like, if we took this on and didn't get that financial support, this is the type of stuff we could.
This is the impact.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I will say I got a call from the lobbyist for the Metro Mayor's Consortium, Form Run. Somehow heard about this and called me. They do work for Oak Lodge Sanitary. And they helped Oak Lodge get $8 million, a combo of $2 million in revolving loan forgiven stuff and $6 million from the legislature. for some projects that Oak Lodge needed to do. So they were offering their services. If you wanna have a meeting with them about those kind of that kind of assistance, but I mean, I guess I just offer that up as a way of saying, and I kind of said it last time we talked about it, is, you know, whether it's earmarks, whether it's congressional earmarks or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
That the city would need to
Sure.
fund the whole.
Yeah,
And I think we might be too, I think that next bullet up there, I know you were speaking about this, Peter, is there's the financial cost. And then there is also, you've heard us talk a lot about a right size CIP and the capacity of our staff. And so we're happy to put this on the list and say, and prioritize it, but it will take project management capacity.
So Peter, how long would it take us to pay this off?
to pay if, well,
Given this scenario, which I think is the most pessimistic scenario, how long would it take us to pay this off?
This is a pay as it goes,
this is, yes, we use existing reserves that we have.
but we have to increase the rate
Yeah,
to do it that way. So
to make, yeah, so we,
no loan with this.
we would, this would not be using a loan, this would be using existing funds that we have in our reserves that are above our minimum cash balances.
So it's the increase for the payments.
The increase is to make sure that we maintain above our minimum cash balance and
Cover future.
and cover future operations and maintenance costs for the utility and future, you know, those future costs. So it's just making sure that we keep that.
So you're draining 4.5 mil from your fund balance. You
Right.
need to replenish that, stay above policy levels, and then you also have ongoing.
Because we have inflation.
You wouldn't stay on top above that with the current rate. It's not like you're borrowing money, like where's the increase coming from?
We have policies around minimum fund balances, so it's keeping ourselves above that. We have other wastewater work that we'll need to prioritize, so this is what our rate consultant is saying, you add this in to the other work, and you look at what your drawdown is gonna be of your fund balance to get you back up to healthy reserves and to cover ongoing O and M.
And there's their ongoing capital. Exactly. So there are, I mean, there are inflationary costs or costs to do business and it goes up, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
To Councilor Busarvati's point, if we need to, we're drawing down, we need to build back up the reserves, could we then taper off that increase slightly, so it only has to cover the O and M, or like, we're not constantly gonna be having to build back our reserves.
We wouldn't be building that reserve back up to that, to the level that it's at now. So, I mean, it's keeping the fund balance at a threshold that's above our minimum. I mean, one of the other things we talked about, setting that as a maximum, it would keep it above them, right? And we can talk, the rate consultant talks some more about this in November when they're here. But I think the good news is we have the cash on the hand if we wanted to do it. I think though, and I think both Jen and I feel pretty strongly about this, is the challenge is managing all the other projects, all the other priorities, whether it's our projects that we already have in the mix. But adding this into as a project that's fairly complicated. I mean, it's designing a pump station and a force main to take that work and making sure that happens. Takes away our capacity to do other projects that are also of a high priority. In some cases, we have a regulatory requirement.
And can I just jump in there, Peter? We're not asking again, tonight is not.
Yeah.
Build the pump station, don't build the pump station. We have a lot of work to do to build this CIP. You've seen a very small preview of our big matrix and all these things. We're basically asking, do you want us to go ahead and put this in the mix so that we can do all that same analysis when we come back to you in November and we come back in February? We're incorporating this on that list of potential rate impacts and staff planning. Or are you wanting to say now, no, we need more information before we can say, throw this onto the CIP for planning purposes.
I appreciate that, Emma, but I think that possibly and I think Adam may be getting at the same thing about this, continuing. So correct me if I'm wrong, and let me give you a hypothetical. If we decided we wanted to pay off the 4.5 million over 5 years, that rate increase would be a lot higher than 2.5%.
I guess I don't understand that question. You're not paying us. You have the cash in the fund balance. So you'd be saying you wanna maintain that higher fund balance.
Is that what that's for?
No, the 2.5% is we're gonna draw down the fund balance. And we also have over the next several years, 5-10 years, we have increasing our costs for other capital projects. So this is to make sure that we maintain sufficient reserves to do that work and operate as a utility.
But it's just for that project.
It's just
2.5 is just for the project. That doesn't incorporate the regular increases we would need just for regular, so this is just for that project. So it's 2.5 plus whatever increase we might need in the future.
I will double check.
Okay.
But I think before the rate consultants were suggesting very minimal increases for you. So less than 2.5.
Is it a 2.5% annual for like the 3 to 4 years that we're designing and building the thing, or is it ongoing?
We're gonna have to get back to you.
Yeah.
We talked to the consultants yesterday and this was a fast turnaround and I think we've got a few more things to clarify. So we'll be back in November.
I don't think that we have to have that feedback to address Emma's question.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So,
I agree.
yeah,
I think it's really, I mean, you just need. And I know it's really hard to ask this of you when we're kind of getting incomplete information, but again, it's kind of what assumptions do you want us to make as we move into CIP development? Do you want to put this project in the mix, given its connection to another large council goal project? We're not saying, we're not gonna, hold you to it, now you're building a pump station and you're set on 2.5%. It's just, we want to make sure we are proceeding with the direction that you've all given us and we can bring back things like what's that, if we have to prioritize a PM for this, what might fall off, we can come back with
So-
what's that.
They're 100%. If we prioritize this, something will get dropped. On the projects, we'll have a little bit more about that in November, but it will definitely affect. We don't have capacity, unless you want to add an FTE and have me bring on another project manager.
I think, so there's a delay of another project. The other thing I just want to mention is we have a lot of work that we have to do for the water treatment. It's gonna be very expensive and we're gonna see some significant impacts to the ratepayers on the water portion of the bill. And ways to reduce that is to take advantage of safe drinking water, revolving loan funds, go on grants, but also use other cash that you have within the city that you can borrow, perhaps internally and borrow at lower interest rates and carrying costs. So that's why it says reduces the ability of sewer to loan to other utilities. We could internally borrow at a lower interest rate than we got one. So we can effectively use that 4.5 million also to pay for water. And the water fund would have to factor that interest cost and principal, pay the wastewater back. But it would be a cheaper, so it's sort of part of that bigger mix.
There are some things that I think our residents are willing to pay $1 more for in general. If we went out for a bond on Milwaukie Park, let's look at that. We talk about a program like SAFE that builds sidewalks across our neighborhoods. I think our people would support that. We talk about a project like Kellogg, people have been doing for a long time. I think our people would support that. I would say I think it's important that before we make a decision on something like this, November, like throw it out to engage. I'd be curious to see some process like that is a little more robust to gather any feedback. I also really, the two elements that to me are not addressed. First, I want to understand the deprioritization. What would it look like that we're talking about right now, not adding it into a future CIP, but amending our existing CIP and dropping something in November?
But that's what they're,
No,
that's
no,
what they're
actually,
asking
it's the
for.
next
Next
CIP.
budget, next biennium.
Next biennium.
Okay, but then we have to drop something on this CIP or
It would
something.
be pushed, right? It would be pushed out potentially.
We're gonna come back to you,
That's the question she's asking,
but I mean, it's,
you know, should they incorporate this project into further planning? So
Yeah.
that planning is gonna
And I guess
give those
that's,
results.
yeah, that's where I'm unclear, I don't know what the prioritization is like. The second part that still is like, this is the biggest thing that happens to me. I've talked to Neil twice. I don't quite understand it, why is the project team not doing this versus us? How like,
I think that
We agree.
that we have a
We
similar
agree.
question.
It should
And
be
I
doing
think,
it.
I think what, so, you could give us a few different direction, you could say. Move forward, put it in the CIP because we wanna see further rate analysis, we wanna see further trade-off analysis. But also go back to that project team and really push for incorporating it into the bigger project. You could say, don't spend more staff time on it for the CIP, we want you just to push on the project team. Or you could say, stop pushing on the project team, give them a break, put it in our CIP. And you don't have to, you're not making a decision tonight, we just wanna make sure, this all takes staff time. This all takes staff time and we wanna make sure we aren't proceeding in either of these project team negotiations or our CIP development out of line with where the majority of council would like us to be.
So when you say go back to the project team and push, are you talking about pushing for the cost of it to be incorporated in the overall project? Or are you saying, are you saying push on who engineered it and who designed
I
it?
think it's both, but I think honestly,
both.
what causes us probably a little more heartburn right now is the capacity piece.
So I'm gonna work to answer that question on my end. With the increase, I worry about that just because this was a project, I explained this to Neil as well. This was a project that was supposed to be funded by grants. Not at any time were residents supposed to be on the hook for anything. What I understand, how this project has always been presented, it's always been a grant funded project. Well, we're losing that here. It's becoming a project that we have to pay for, the residents have to pay for. And I'm not saying they're not willing to do that. But I just feel like it's kind of I mean, it kind of sucks, right, to have to say, well, it's supposed to be grant funded, but now there's gonna be costs, because this is all explorative right now, it could be higher. It could be higher, that's a 2025 cost. So even with a modest increase, so let's say, okay, we're okay with that. Then the next issue is the delay of other projects, we just had a presentation about this, and I don't know. Maybe people would be interested in not interested, but they'd be willing to do the fee increase. But I don't know how willing they would be to delay more projects that have already been delayed for CIP. That's kind of where I'm concerned too, because this project was never intended for us to take a chunk of like this on. It was never presented to the council that this project was gonna incorporate that. I'm for the project, but I'm just not for it. I don't like how it's morphing, what it's morphing into. Because now it's starting to take up more of our staff time, now it's gonna cost us more money. And it was never intended to do that. When I talked to Neil, I've explained this to him. I said, well, maybe we wait till we have a better situation and to fight level 2. Because what happens, and Councilor Massey mentioned this before, what if we don't get the grants to complete the project? We're on the hook.
We are on the hook, and we also means we just put in a lift station instead of having a gravity line. And now we're have to maintain the entire lifespan.
And again, I just wanna say tonight, we're not deciding if we
Right.
move
This is just what I'm.
it forward for further analysis.
I just don't, because it's gonna cost us to have to move projects off, I'm not willing to do that.
So you would like us not to even do further, put it further?
I just don't think, I'm just not willing to take projects off the list that have been sitting there. I mean, we had so many people up here for 29th Avenue Freeway, and so many projects that were 8+ years delayed. Even neighborhood hubs, we're waiting for a lot of things to be done. I don't think it's fair to make them wait again. Because there was a wrench thrown into this whole thing that none of us anticipated. And I just don't think it's fair.
So I definitely see it differently. I agree the sewer line was a wrench that nobody saw coming. But I don't think anybody ever said Milwaukee won't have to pay up any money for this project. I mean, Milwaukee put in seed money in the beginning. Yes, there's hope that the bulk of it gets paid for by outside, by federal or state or other money, and it's the $10 million metro, metro money, that was the $16 million other money. I mean, but nobody ever said like, it's not gonna cost Milwaukee another dime. The other thing is, the project, the current funding, the IGAs or whatever have money that is set aside for Milwaukee, and maybe in negotiation of, any future funding that comes in, we need to negotiate for a higher stake of that. But I don't think anybody ever, promised us it was not gonna cost
That's
us
a problem,
anything.
when I brought it up to Neil, he argued, and would say that, oh, you guys are. I mean, did anybody anticipate us paying $4.5 million and having to increase rates 2.5% per year?
No, and that's where I do think, I guess, like I said before, I'm hopeful there's some outside funding sources to do this. That doesn't address the staff capacity piece, but I think in terms of the rate impact piece, I'd like us to keep studying it and keep exploring what those funding things are. It seemed to me that the Watershed Council and the other project partners were offering to help us with some of those funding pieces, and so I think we should take them up on that. To me, the staff capacity piece is the harder piece. I do think, whether it happens in 2027, which is what they're still shooting for, or whether it happens in 2030 or 2032, this project is gonna happen at some point, and we are gonna need to move that sewer.
How much more do you think it's gonna be by 2030? It's already $100 million. How
Well,
much more do you think that's gonna cost?
that's why we should do it now.
But if he does, we don't have to do it, that's what I'm saying, like, if it's not something that has to be done right now, we would.
Okay, so I'm hearing one for yes, moving forward for further study, and one for no.
I'm ready to talk.
Okay.
So, yes, I'm for incorporating this project and further planning the budget. And the reason that I am is that although I'm, that one of the flummoxed by that why this has become a big issue at this point, I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure, how it came about this way, but in the grand scheme of things, I just think that this project is too important. Not only for parks and green space, but for economic development, okay? Because this would be a huge draw. It would be a model, for restoration of a natural habitat, that was, ruined 100 years ago, and I think it could just eventually be, the defining feature of the city. That we have a free-flowing salmon habitat running through the urban area. And I just think not only would our residents love it, because it's not just gonna be, there's gonna be a restoration of the natural area. And and it just has some, knock-on economic development. So yeah, I'm for this. I understand that the issues with staff planning. I don't think we're at the point we're making major trade-offs just by continuing this planning and budget development. I think it's an investment in a direction I would like for us to proceed on.
I'll talk so much, Rebecca. I'll let you go if you want, and I'll hop in. I'm gonna this book.
I think the moment that it became a priority project by applying for a grant, getting a grant, or not, getting the federal funding, and joining a project team, I think there's an implication that Milwaukee would have something to pay. I mean, even very early on in the conversations about staffing and staffing allocation to the project team, there's an assumption by being a project partner that there's something that we will have to contribute. What sucks is that we don't have a whole lot of capacity to contribute. And so this is, I mean, it's not just the struggle with this project, it's a struggle with a lot of projects. And I just don't know how many superhero capes you're expected to keep in the closet. Cause you've really done an amazing job with some huge projects over the last couple of years. So I think that we move forward with some staffing capacity to look at, you know, what this timeline, what's the feasibility of this timeline. I feel like we are a direct, we receive direct benefit from this project. There's been huge investment. And I think that even though perhaps it wasn't explicit, I feel like there was an implication that we would at some point be expected to pay a portion of the project. Not but
Paying for lighting, rating.
oh, but that's a means to an end. So in order to keep the balance over a course of, I don't know, how many years do they estimate the rate increase?
Well,
Did they like,
We'll need to get back to you.
okay, so let's say that's over the course of 10 years. At some point, the rate increase for this project is not necessary any longer because the amount of revenue in the reserves will have replenished. Like, basically, you want to make sure that you're keeping like that net change at zero. And so over the course of this project, then that rate increase goes away. I'm surprised that it's only 2.5.
Well, and that is because we have that, we have that reserve, that fund reserve, so that's we're taking cash that we have.
Yeah.
And you don't have it, so.
And front loading, you know, then you get the benefit of today's cost or, you know, next year's cost versus 10 years from now cost of doing the project.
But didn't you guys say that there wasn't like a time frame for that 2.5%? Because that's what me and Robert were trying to ask them. Yes, it was something you have to do.
Well, so it's not to pay back the.
Yeah, it's to keep it from dipping below the
It's to
reserve
keep our
level.
future costs, future capital from, and all our future expenses from dipping below the minimum
Reserves.
cash reserves.
Right.
So we take a big chunk that we have in there.
Yeah.
We're taking that reserve, which would perhaps mean we don't have to do, like, this last 2 years, we're doing the increase, right?
So it's like in your family budget, if you have an understanding that you're gonna have like, you know, $100 in the bank at all times, emergency fund. And you know that there's some expenses coming in that are gonna dip into that $100. Well, then you start taking on some extra side jobs or like selling off some things. No, I'm just saying like the 2.5 makes it so that you could stay at that policy limit and
Right.
keep that
But
limit.
it's not the only thing.
Right, but that's like
I will,
apple
I
and
will
orange.
Yeah,
Still fruit.
I also, I think Council President's gonna get the last word, but I think we got 3 now saying, move it forward for further analysis. So we can do that, we're gonna answer more questions on rates, we'll come back. And I go back to like the shadow column of political direction, I mean, there's some science here, but at the end of the day, it's policy choices. And so what this just sets us up for is getting some more information and informing you to help make a policy decision when you adopt this.
I mean, very lead, I'm fine to move forward with the CIP. I think I'm fine to take on the rate increase. My understanding was we need to earn back money to quickly get back to our policy minimum. And then over time, that additional money that we're making over a year helps defray future increases to the rates, because that will cover some like inflationary expenses. So in the short run, that additional funds that we make each year will help us build back to the policy minimum. Over time, that prevents us having to do rate increases. That's wrong, the wrong interpretation. I'd love to know. You don't have to answer today. But that is kind of the assumption that I have.
2.5% allows us to expend what we've got currently programmed for CIP and our future overhead cost without it being below the minimum cash threshold. So that's what that does.
Sure.
That does not answer the question as to whether that increase would be indefinite or over a fixed amount of time.
But it's gonna be over the fixed period,
Okay,
like 5 years. I mean, generally you do these rate studies for like a 5 period. You're looking at that 5 year. But we'll verify that time frame.
And I think, I mean, it's obvious at this point, there's clear heartburn about that, so we'd love some more understanding. I think my larger thing that I would say here is, I firmly do not understand why it is not the project team delivering this project, and I'm fine to come to the table with money. I don't disagree that in the same way that we're asking a lot of other people to come to the table with money, I think it's our obligation to come to the table with money. Why, like, if we had to write a $4.5 million check and say project team deliver, that to me is within, like, much more reasonable than obligating us to change our existing plans to deliver this project. And I think that we need to be really clear to the project team that I don't know if this is a majority of council statement, but like, we really expect the project team to deliver this, not for our staff to deliver this, or we want some clear reason why it has to be our staff to do this. I'm not opposed to, like, I realize that the project will not get done if we don't come to the table or be a partner, and I think putting it in the CFP or having this conversation again in November is important stuff to that end. But I really would push back hard against the partner teams. They try and offload this project up to us, even if it's not like, we will help financially, but the operations part of it, delivery.
Well, so, okay, that makes some sense to me, except earlier tonight.
Yeah.
Jennifer made the point about how even when we have a consultant, there's staff time involved, and isn't that kind of what this would be like? There would, you wouldn't just say, you guys design and build it. We're done, there would still be staff oversight needed.
But the project delivers it, then I'm not expected to have inspectors, all of those types of things, like it is less of a burden.
Okay,
So I mean, that is my preference that they deliver it, because they'll hire a consultant to do all those things, all the right of way, all the, you know,
okay,
acquisition, plan for all that. Yes, we're still, no matter what, we're involved with the dam removal project, right? There is staff already. If we take on this project, then we're fully now having to run everything, run the contracts. Contracts are time consuming. So it's a bigger burden to have it in-house than have them take it.
And I guess the thing that I would say related to this is, I've heard it expressed from Neil and the product team that they would like to have staff more present in some of their meetings or designing, scoping. I don't know the specifics, but he said there's a point in which we want staff to be at the table. And I, not knowing what our staff would say to that, I'm all for that, but I think my expectation is the staff are involved in that way, not delivering these projects. And I think it's important that we send that signal as a council to our project team.
I think that, well said, Council President, I will say staff are at the table. Staff are at the table. We are a small city delivering a broad mandate of things, and I feel confident that we are providing the absolute max capacity we possibly can right now in this project. I think with the direction we have tonight, you're gonna see further analysis from our team of what providing even more in the way of managing a project would look like for our CIP delivery and for rates. And then we can continue this conversation down the road. We can also continue in our negotiations with the project team, emphasizing and inviting them to come watch that our council is feeling some consternation about this because we are a small city with many priorities. We love this project. We want to see this project happen. That is not at all in doubt. It is just a $5 million CIP project is a big deal to a small city.
And that's the thing, I sort of like, I'm not against the project, I know that it's gonna be economically when it gets completed, and that could be years down the road. That's my only concern, is that, you know, with everything else we got going on, just might not be the time for us to do it. I have nothing against it, I love it, I supported it through, I love what it's gonna do, but taking into consideration of where we are right now, country, federal government funds. So is a project is economic if it never gets. Right now, it's not up to us if it gets. That's all that's all my point is.
So we, I think, have marching orders. And again, if anyone's watching, I'm sure someone's watching, we love this project, we're all in, but I think I said to a few of you, that you would be very mad at me if come CIP adoption time, you saw a $5 million project other that I hadn't talked to you about. So thank you for letting us daylight this and have some of these tough and complicated and convoluted conversations, but we will continue to move forward with putting it into our analysis and our further CIP discussions with you all.
Next slide.
Is that it?
There's one more, but that's okay.
Just where we are on CIP, right? So we've had these discussions with the budget committee. I think November, you know, we're targeting having some more discussions on the prioritization list, having that sort of further fleshed out. We get this document here in the next day, but we're really looking at having that full draft in February. But it's sort of fully, it's financially sound, it's here, we landed with all of the going through the budget process. So we're gonna look down to the last several budgets, having that discussion with the budget committee. Sort of that doing budget committee, yeah. A lot of work goes still to go to make that happen, so. That was it.
Okay. I have one thing that I want to bring up, not about analog, not about the budget, but going back to Harvey Street, actually. So in 2020, after the murder of George Floyd and the sort of reckoning around names of places and statues to people and stuff, I always had in the back of my head, like, who are, you know, do we have people that we have places named after that, you know, have baggage? Have not had a lot of them brought to my attention, but I did this last week. So this is a 1977 supplement to the, you know, whatever the paper was at the time. It's full of some interesting stuff. In fact, the Mason family who owned the farm around where Mason Hill and all that. So it does explain a fair amount of, and it explains a few streets, like the streets of Boyd, Malcolm, and Kelvin are named for the developer's sons. And then, you know, Van Waters, Roswell. Anyway, there's one bad story in here, and it's about Mr. Harvey. And Mr. Harvey was tried in 1910 for the murder of a family of 4. He was acquitted. There are, and there's just a little short piece on that in here, but if you Google it, there's a lot of information about Mr. Harvey and that trial and that murder. I don't know what we can do with that. You know, we talked about a naming policy, not really about streets. renaming a street that people have lived on for 100 years is not something you do lightly. But I did want other people to be aware of that history. Because I found it kind of troubling.
Thank you for sharing that, Mayor, and again, I don't wanna get too into the weeds, but when we bring this naming policy, we've talked a little bit about, should it apply to streets, should it not? And I think street naming is a much bigger thing, Jen's like, don't touch my street naming, but I will say.
Not my court, actually, I don't deal with street naming.
But I will say, we've talked about this kind of particular case, a case where there is a renaming needed for a reason, as something that we would want this naming policy where the equity steering committee and the park are working on to address. So I think October 21st, when we talk about that, you set us up nicely for a good case.
Well, and I was gonna ask staff to scan this and send it around to everybody, because you might find other nicer tidbits in here that you find interesting. Nicole told me she thinks it's already.
I did a quick search and I didn't find it where I thought it was.
Okay.
So I'll take it just in case.
Okay.
But yeah.
I mean, Portland renamed Cedar Chavez, and that's a long street in Portland, so
Yeah.
it's possible.
Yeah, already know. Anyway, okay. Got that off of my chest.
Better, Barbie.
Yeah.
Any other questions for?
Any other questions for Jen or Peter?
I love the
We let them
work
go.
it's the CLT team, like, thank you for all the work you're doing. Can't wait till you deliver at the end too.
Damn, you remove it all.
I'll wait till the whole thing ends.
He's not even damn delivered.
Johnson Creek.
Okay. A couple other things for the council reports, but yeah, guys are, all right.
I got a quick one. The audit committee met last night. In the continuing movement of corporate consolidation with Monson Adams and now Baker Tilly. So they've got their business cards, I guess. And they had their audit entrance, which began in August, where they identified the internal controls. We've heard this before, is that they take a risk-based approach. They're not auditing every dollar, but they're just trying to understand significant risks like overridden controls, revenue recognition. They have a long list of things that they go through. The timing is that they will be back in November for the final feedback for the submission in January. They have not discovered anything significant at this point, just like last year. I really like the way that they do this. They not only have two members who are lead on the project, but they have a remote person who's down in Medford who kind of audits the auditors, and keeps everything honest. So I really appreciate that. And this is Amanda Moore, I think it is, who we never see, but does good work for us. There are two new standards that are out. They periodically revise the general accounting standards, and one of them is to establish a liability recognition for leave that they expect people to take. This is a little bit different from, I thought it might be, the bank of leave that people, carry on their accounts and then cash in when they retire. That's completely different, governed by contracts. It's already recognized. But this recognizes, folks, who might be taking a good chunk of PTO, and then you've got a hole that you can't, their jobs can't be done and that kind of thing. And so I'm not sure exactly how they go about that. But at any rate, they're trying to, this is one of the new GAP standards. The second one is a recognition of what they call concentrations and constraints. And they said, what happens if you have a major employer go bankrupt or moves and your business taxes go way down? That's not really identified as a risk currently in the GAP. And so that's kind of important. Kind of ties into what we're doing economic development wise. The mayor put together some questions, and one of those questions is, how's your business doing? What's your outlook? You know, kind of like that. So maybe we go around, we'll get some feedback on that. I think that's particularly important because the economy seems to be slowing down, you know, so that might mean some layoffs. And I'm not sure it would mean any relocation of businesses, but I mean, if you think about, you know, Megget or Oregon Tool or Precision Cast Parts, that would be a big deal if they closed or moved or something like that. And so that's something we don't have a lot of visibility into, so that's kind of appropriate. I'm not sure how they build that into the audit, but I thought it was an interesting new requirement in the gap requirements.
It's about Hillsborough.
Yeah, they've been through some.
Yeah. I had a couple of council reports. Before I get to those, I wanted to say something in follow up to last week's discussion. The council president and I met on Thursday last week and had a good discussion. I still feel like I would want to stand up and defend myself when my position is misrepresented. But I think in the future, I will approach him first and give him a chance to make a correction that happens before what happened here. I also do think I was unfair in one part in particular, which was accusations of him taking credit for things that the rest that the council as a whole were doing or that have existed forever. I went back and reread his emails, and I don't think that's a regular recurring kind of issue there. So I do apologize to you for that, because I do think I mischaracterized that discussion last year. Beyond that, I would just want to quickly tell people, today I got to go on a tour at Waste Management's new recycling facility. It was it's a very nice large facility. They did offer if anybody wants to have a tour that we could arrange our own tour. This was like 100 people there for ribbon cutting and stuff. So the tour we got was really very truncated, and I didn't feel like I learned a whole lot about how it works. There is the potential to go back and take a tour, have a tour arranged for us if we wanted it. I don't know. I'm not particularly motivated to arrange that, but if anybody else is, I can hook you up and you can work with them to set that up. And the other thing was the League of Oregon Cities conference is coming up. I hope people will go. It's in Portland, so it doesn't mean having to leave your family and go stay in a hotel.
Registration deadline is 5 p.m. Thursday.
Yep. The other thing going on at LOC is they are forming their policy committees. And I have never served on one of those policy committees, so I'm a little bit, it's a little bit of do as I say and not as I do, I guess. But formerly, Mayor Gamba, former Councilor Heisey, different people have served on their policy committees before. There's like 6 or 8 of them, topical, and they are sort of how they start this fall and they meet through next summer, and it's how they form their legislative agenda for 2027. So I do encourage people to think about trying to volunteer. I think a lot of those are Zoom meetings. I don't think you have to go to Salem for them or anything. So I do encourage people to think about serving in an LOC policy committee. Yeah.
I think Joseph and I will be attending. Mayor, are we gonna do the mayor, city manager, do a fun game?
Do you volunteer?
Yes, let's do it. There is on day one, a newlywed style game between city managers and mayors. How well do we know each other?
Oh, you're gonna brush it.
Well, that is going to be good.
We'll bring home the prize.
Are we going to have preparation sessions?
Yes. Yeah. We don't have much
I'll
time.
bring the spotlight. In addition to that, just on the note of tours, Scott has sent out 2 emails, one about a doodle poll for touring Johnson Creek Watershed Council project, and the other, why am I blanking on it?
Concord, they offered a tour of Concord, so.
These are spontaneous.
It's a regional park, so.
Wait, that's not the grand, I thought it was, I saw the grand opening, when that was from,
That's October 18th,
Yeah.
so this is about 3 or 4 weeks before that, it was in late September.
okay,
They're offering us, it's a noontime thing, tour, it actually. But, trying to. Anyway, yeah. It's funny because I hit them up to give you guys a tour. I had that tour with the DAC months ago, and I hit them up to give you a tour like back in May. It's taking this long, but you're getting one. I don't know who else is, I don't know if it's just a tour for us or if it's a tour, but they're thinking a lot of people have no idea. You probably do. By the way, the DAC meets tomorrow on the system plan, so if anybody wants to send me any comments on the system. I guess copies.
so it's, did I read right that the 3 timeline phases were not included in the public material?
No, they haven't amended. You mean the thing about near term,
Yeah.
they have not amended that at all because they are, it's a little frustrating. They are, they don't want to pay for 2 rounds of amendments from their contractor. So they are taking, the DAC is commenting on the draft that was posted back in June. And then after our comments tomorrow, they will do a revision that goes to the county commissioners. So the onus, I guess, is on us if we don't like what changes after tomorrow to go to the county commissioners and.
Cause there's a shadow political call.
Yeah. And one of our park members is gonna attend tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have a second appointment to the DAC soon. Anybody else? It's late.
We have studied so much.
We have very.
This was a long study session.
So we are adjourned.
Sure you don't want the regular session right now too?
Yeah, let's roll.